Welcome back to Men on Trek, Season 2, Episode 10, Admiral Red Shirt, Captains Daystrom and Palpatine back again. This week, The Cage, the original Star Trek pilot, created or filmed in January of 1965, not aired on NBC in the original run of the show.
Wow.
Isn't that a misnomer saying the original pilot? The pilot is going to be the original no matter what?
But there are two pilots, technically. Where No Man Has Gone Before is the second pilot.
The pilot and the redo.
Right. The other pilot.
Okay. I stand corrected.
The Cage, the way Star Trek was meant to be.
Was meant
to be. I think so.
That's it.
I think so.
It's the OG. It's the original. It's the no nonsense, non-distilled, non-watered down.
Yeah, pretty edgy in some ways, especially for 1965. So, gentlemen, let's dive in.
First, let's put a rating on it. Where does the pilot rate for you as far as Star Trek goes, Admiral?
It's one of my favorites. Cage has always probably been in my top 10. Yeah, I like The Cage.
It's hard to say that it's in its top 10 because it's almost like it's something different.
Something completely different.
Yeah, and it's its own category, and it's number one in that category.
So to play the middle, I would say top 10, and it is something completely different. It has always been one of my favorite episodes.
Yes.
But it's not necessarily an episode. It is a different monster than what
it's its own
the
thing.
suits gave us.
Yeah, it's its own thing for sure.
Yeah, it's not. It's standalone even now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You could have that as it's a 1 hour movie on television, and there wouldn't need to be anything before or after it. Stood on its own.
If a studio wanted to do Star Trek and wanted to do it right, their best bet is to look at The Cage and go from The Cage and nothing else.
That could be an interesting take.
And the scary thing about it, watching it again for me, was how incredibly smart it was.
Yeah. And I know as we were watching it, it's kind of the hallmark of what we're doing here. It wasn't accepted because of how smart it was. It was perceived as too cerebral, and which I found strange because the formula's there. I mean, it had a bit of action, and there were the usual things, but way smarter.
Well, let's get through the particulars as we go, Admiral.
Well, one of the things is to note is that although there is a Spock, pretty much the rest of the crew is either unrecognizable or characters that don't make it into
the series
itself.
Yeah. Total cast changeover. The only holdover from this pilot is Spock. Nobody else.
And I will tell you, I'm probably the biggest Kirk fan, like James T. Kirk as the captain of the Enterprise.
Right.
But this Chris Pike, we'll leave the newer versions of that out there. But to me, this is the standard.
This is a captain.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a captain.
Yeah.
So, as much of a Shat fan you might be,
Sir William, as he said.
And I'm a huge William Shatner fan myself, but I find myself gravitating to this version of Pike.
Yeah,
he's a man that I can see going into battle with.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. I could say in Voyager, I would put myself in an airlock. Then the next gen, I could. There's no way I could serve on that vessel. And what it would come down to is who would you prefer to be the captain?
Yeah.
And it's Pike to me. This version of Pike.
Well,
I
don't want to take anything from Shatner. I love Shatner, but this is a different feel, and for a more realistic Star Trek. And it's hard to say that because it's all fantasy, but
This is less fantasy.
This is less
they
fantasy.
They went for this. I guess this is what some people almost call, it ventured into what you'd almost call hard science fiction.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, too, we'll see it as we get into it. Pike is not where Kirk was. This is his first.
Kirk was new.
His first 5 year and stuff. And at this point, I think you had said this was either Pike's second or third 5 year mission out there.
Yeah, when they fleshed out the backstory of Pike and the, after the fact, Pike pulled 2 or 3 full 5 year tours.
Put it this way: if I couldn't have Pike, I would want Kirk and nobody else.
Right.
But if I had a choice, I would probably want to be on Pike's ship.
But that's what I think is cool about it. If this was done in a more modern time, like now we live in a time where we have a lineage of 6 Star Trek shows. How cool would it have been if the original series was Pike and the first sequel was Kirk?
Right.
Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah.
How cool would that have been?
Right.
Been great.
Because you can totally see it. Pike's the senior guy. They kind of tried to give it to you in the J.J. Abrams movie, and it made sense. That was one of the things I liked about it. It made sense.
No, it didn't to me, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Admiral. I'm going to let you finish. I'm sorry. I apologize again. But see, the
you ain't sorry.
The Pike.
Here comes the rain on the
No,
parade.
the Pike in the J.J. Abrams movie is acting like a father. And the Pike in this one, he's not a father. He is not a father. He's a starship captain that is done.
Seasoned.
He's done. He's burnt out. He's had it.
I get that, but the Admiral's right regarding the J.J. Abrams movie. He is a father figure to Kirk.
I just meant the fact that he was there in that position.
At that point.
Yeah.
So I sort of see it. It's like, it's like they say in business, having your son there sort of, can you still hold the position that you're holding and not be a boss and not a father?
Right.
This version of Pike, or this Pike for the pilot, is a captain that has been there and done that already.
Mm-hmm.
He's a seasoned captain. He's not the young, shining new boy on the block.
Talented or not.
Which they make you understand that Kirk is.
Right.
Kirk is the golden boy of the new era.
Yes.
This is a guy who's already been there and done that.
And as Jim points out, is thinking about, have I had enough?
He's making mistakes and he knows it. And there's a scene where, and we'll get to it, but he's basically saying, I should have picked up on this and I'm not. And the reason I'm not is because I'm done.
I've been out here too long.
Yeah, he's been out there too long. And he's talking, one of the things that we'll see in the episode, he's not thinking about retiring and putting his feet up and rocking chair. Some of the stuff he's talking about is sketchy. I mean, he's talking about dealing in lives and things like that because at the end of the day, what do you do? What do you do? And we've had this conversation before.
Let's get into the episode before we start dealing in.
Where I was going, and Jim's disagreement doesn't really overshadow. Is just how cool would it have been to have Pike's tenure, and then come to a place where you see Pike hand off to Kirk, and go forward.
Oh, it would have been great.
I don't see conflict between the two.
Now they've gone back and they're going to tarnish Pike.
Well, we'll see.
Oh, they're going to tarnish him. You cannot make a good Star Trek in the generation we live in with all the boxes that's got to be checked. Pike will be diminished greatly.
One of his lines on the bridge he says, "I'm not used to women being on the bridge." I mean, that's one of the things that Pike says, and it's not that we agree with anything. It was 1965 when this was written,
right.
And we know that one of the reasons that the episode had issues with NBC is because Roddenberry had created a number 1 as a female character. I mean, he was trying, 2 generations ago to try to
push the envelope.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
But it's what do you do with a Pike who is carved out of that stone? And bring him forward 2 or 3 generations.
But what I mean by that statement alone, although it might be offensive, it's double offensive because the woman that is on the bridge, because she is intellectual, because she is non-emotional, he doesn't even...
Well, no, he wasn't talking about number 1.
No,
he was.
Yes, he was. He didn't consider her a woman.
Right.
Right.
He said, "You're different."
That's what I'm. That's where I was going.
So what I mean is
his beef was with the yeoman, and he didn't look at number one.
It's a double cut.
Yeah,
because she is a woman.
Right.
Just because she's intellectual, just because she's non-emotional, as we say men are, that he didn't view her as a woman.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a double insult if you want to put it that way.
It's a double insult.
Yeah.
And you couldn't do that in today's filmmaking.
Well, no, you could. But you changed the whole arc of the character. He's the bad guy from that time forward.
Pike doesn't care, I don't think, most of the time, who you are.
Yeah.
He just wants to put his hand out and somebody puts a wrench in it. He's there.
Do your job.
He's just there. He wants to get it done. And what he's annoyed with, I think, well, we should get into this because there's a lot of,
yeah.
Well, we're skipping some of the stuff that we need to. So,
well, we don't have to.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, the impressions of the episode are just awesome, and you want to dive into that. But first of all, this episode is not remastered.
It is not.
Kind of a bummer.
It is not. When I saw the Enterprise, my heart sank. I was like, ooh.
Well,
that's a little funky model.
Well, that Enterprise model, it goes by pretty quick, but that Enterprise model is significantly different than the Enterprise we come to know in the regular series. There's little touches. It is physically different. Little things. If you see a model of it, you can really tell the difference between it and the other Enterprise the Enterprise.
One thing we must state for the audience that this is the pilot. There is no continuity necessarily between the show
and this episode
and what we get in the pilot. There will be inconsistencies because this is what's being ran up to the soups of Paramount.
Right.
For the show.
Never got aired.
And it never got aired.
Mm-hmm.
At the time of the running of the show.
Right.
Now in reruns it got aired.
Yeah, eventually.
But never at the running of the show.
But I think that's one of the things that Roddenberry did well is that he didn't redo the pilot in the same time. He took the pilot forward.
Yeah.
Right? Like he created it 5 years in the future, whenever it was. And I think that was a good idea because it showed he was able then to have an evolution sort of built in, and there was a backstory that was readily available. And they used it in the only two-parter.
Yeah, the menagerie.
The menagerie. 2 parts.
So we pick up a different Enterprise, a sparse Enterprise, on its way to the Vega colony to get medical attention for injured crew members and to refit the ship, essentially, even to pick up replacement crew for the injured.
Right.
Because of a fight on Rigel 7 with barbarian type guys.
A fight on Rigel 7 that left a lot of people broken, bloody, and dead.
3 dead, 7 wounded.
Yeah.
And little touch they put in the episode, multiple crew members are running around wearing bandages.
Well, they say the crew is 203, so you figure 10 casualties with 3 dead, 7 wounded. So 5% casualties on this one mission.
Yeah.
You can't do that too often.
No. And essential crew members. I mean, the helmsman's got a bandaged arm, and
Captain Yeoman is
dead.
Dead.
The original yeoman's dead, and the replacement doesn't have the game quite together yet. But yeah, but that was a nice little touch that I never really paid attention to. It was like there's bandaged people running around, and with a crew that small, it's like, well, yeah, there's 7 people on the ship who are injured.
Well, it's interesting that you start off this Star Trek, the story, with a battered crew and a tired captain. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like, this is not
right.
Yeah. You know, it's a much different. This is
different story arc.
It's almost like in the other Star franchise that we don't talk about. Remember, the big deal was that it looked used.
Yeah.
Right. Well, here's a used crew.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
So it when you do that in story writing, it builds up a history, a prehistory to everything. Tolkien did it a lot.
Right.
And the guy from Game of Thrones, George Martin.
R.R. Martin.
R.R. Martin did it a lot to build up prehistory to give more gravity to the world he's setting up.
Yeah.
So
deep world building.
So in the pilot, it's already coming over. This is not okay. We're right out of the academy and we're going
Right.
to do this.
I've been at this a while.
This is a guy who's been at it a while, a seasoned captain, and he's fatigued because they've been getting their A handed to them, and he's lost people. There's no other way to look at it.
And his decisions.
They lost people because of decisions he's made or did not make.
He dropped his guard.
He is a flawed character immediately. And I think that's why, and I'll tell you, there's a thing here where we talk about story and story arc, and you start off with less skills, and then, you become the hero, and you've got to go through trials, and usually you lose before you can win, and then at the end there's some sort of redemption. There's nothing like that with Pike.
Yeah, he started at a loss.
He starts at a loss, and he even says at the end, he goes, I don't even get an apology for what I just went through. And he's back to work the next day. There's no redemption. There's no Clark. And in fact, he's either saying, he says at one point to the doctor, get out of my face. I've already been on leave. Which means he was tortured and everything, So it's he's a flawed guy, and I think from the very beginning that's what makes him. You can identify with him.
Yes.
If you've ever held a job where you questioned, have I done this too long, or what am I still getting out of this?
The difference between Pike and Kirk is most of us will never be the golden boy. The best of class, the top, this is the next great thing. Most of us fit closer to Pike. I've been there, done that, and I've got the scars to go along with it.
Pike may have started the golden boy.
But we're not seeing the golden boy. Right. We're seeing the scarred old man.
You see the lion in winter.
Yeah, you're seeing the lion in winter. This is a guy who's already been battered and beaten. Yeah, maybe I can get in a couple of punches with Pike because he's no longer at, peak. But he's been there.
I think Pike,
Kirk. So what I'm saying is the relationship between you and the character.
Right.
We love Kirk because Kirk is the best. But there's a different feel with Pike. This is the old man who gets you through. This is the old man you're on his ship. You got a greater chance of coming back alive.
I think Pike's gonna hand out that Captain Tracy beating though.
He probably will. But the point is,
take a poke at.
who are you going to put your trust in?
The seasoned man.
The young and upcoming star, or the seasoned guy.
The seasoned guy.
Plug me into the seasoned guy. I've got a better chance with the seasoned guy.
Right.
Now that doesn't prove true in the actual episodes. We see a lot of seasoned guys in the Star Trek universe crack.
Well, but that's an interesting point because that's where Jim's getting at. We're seeing Pike at that point. Pike's saying, if I keep doing this, what happens? He's at that tipping point. He's at that point where he's thinking it might be time to pack it in.
Well, let's run through some of the episodes because we're shooting ahead in very crucial points.
Not really. We're just getting into the characters that we've been exposed to.
Brought up. So roll it, Admiral.
Roll it, Admiral. All right. Well, first of all, like I said, the ship's on its way to Vega Colony after a bad time on Rigel 7, but they get a deflector warning.
Yeah.
They get the deflector screen warning, and like we've alluded to, everything's different in the pilot. The sounds of the ship, the way things function is different, but they get this deflector warning, and it turns out to be an old style distress signal, and they identify it as a ship that had vanished 18 years prior.
Yeah, 18 years. 18
years prior, a ship had vanished, and this is even different than what we're used to. Spock, a very emotional and lively Spock, is giving Captain Pike the details, and Captain Pike thinks about it for a minute and goes, "Nah, we're gonna keep going."
And I love that. My crew first. Let my people get taken care of. That's why I want the senior captain. That's why I want that old man who's gonna take care of me. Before we rush out and say somebody else, let me get home and get healed.
Yeah.
Because a young captain go, we got to save the day and run out there and get blew down. Take me home first.
Pike makes a decision you don't expect in a sci-fi show, period, much less anything you've seen in Star Trek. He says, you know what? That's really interesting. We're late for the Vega colony.
No, he said there's no signs of survivors.
Right. He says if there's signs of survivors, we would detour.
We would detour, but there's no signs. So what do you think?
Well, no,
Captain?
right there is, so you're talking about the first 5 minutes of a new show that you're pitching, and your captain can go for the
glory,
for the glory and all this other stuff, and he's like, not interested. I mean, it's such a strong statement of him just saying, I don't really
care. I don't care.
It's not. I don't want to say that he doesn't care.
People say it with me. I don't care. If there's signs of life, I'll come get you. But it ain't. I'm not diverting. This is what I hated about Janeway's ship. It's what I hated about Voyager. In the first season, the robot doctor.
Where's all this hate coming from?
The robot doctor says it. In the first episode, he goes,
shouldn't we be trying to do everything we can to get home?
Shouldn't we be trying to get home, but we're going to stop and intervene in every little nook and cranny on our way?
Right.
Yeah.
He says it in the first, and that's the exact truth. That's what Voyager does when she should be trying to what?
Get home at all costs.
Get her people home. The heck with the Kazons, the heck with all the rest of the Gamma Quadrant, or whatever quadrant they were in.
Gamma.
Let's get home. And then we can come back out here and help these folks. But if you can't help home first, you can't take care of your people first, I don't want you to be my captain. I would have mutinied on Janeway's ship.
She strands them in the pilot. They have a chance to get home in the pilot.
I would have mutinied on Janeway's ship. She would have been phasered. I would need to put her through an airlock. She would have been shot in the back. shot.
And there, ladies and gentlemen, is Captain Daystrom in all his mutinous glory. So, yeah, it's an interesting take. He's like, nope, we're heading to Vega Colony. We are not diverting unless you can definitively tell me they're survivors. And that was a cool thing that I picked up on that I never paid attention to before. And we'll get to Pike, leaving the bridge at this point, but that's an important statement, and we'll find that out in a few minutes. But Captain Pike makes that call, doubles down on get to Vega, time warp factor 7. Not warp factor 7. And the warp drive is not called the warp drive, it's the hyperdrive.
Hyperdrive.
And time warp is a speed measurement. So they're actually getting into the fact that warp drive is time displacement.
Yeah.
And they never do that again. They never talk about it like that again.
Another interesting, when you watch this scene, you watch Pike looking at various individuals, like trying to see how they will respond before he interjects anything. He's reading his crew first.
Yeah, he looks at number 1.
And he looks at Spock, and he looks at the various crew members. And it's like it's a senior officer. He's calculating, okay, what is this one going to do? How's this one going to respond? So he'll take that information and then do with it as he sees fit. But like I said, the choice that the captain makes is very important. And as you're pointing out, the different inconsistencies from the show that we had altered from the pilot. And they're two different monsters. But the way it's done, it's taken as this is how it was done before Kirk's generation.
Right. It's easy. Even though Roddenberry wasn't thinking this way when this pilot was made, with the canon that was built around it later, or the story that was built around it later, it's easy to see this as the Enterprise out on its second or third tour after it was built. It hasn't been refit yet to look like the ship that Kirk commanded. By the time Kirk gets it, it's been refit or new equipment's been installed. This is a much more down and dirty ship.
Oh yeah, we even talked about the sounds of the ship. Things sound like that just between you and lethal radiation is like 2 millimeters of aluminum. Like if you open the wrong hatch, you're gonna get even the transporter, everything, the machinery, the mechanisms sound like they're just barely harnessed. They're barely under control.
It's the difference from being in a Escort to being in a BMW 6 Series. The road sound, the difference.
Right.
You're driving an Escort.
Or driving a truck versus a sports car.
You hear all this, but you get in the 6 Series. It's smooth.
Yeah, it is.
It's sealed off.
That was the thing about the Next Generation. I never felt like I was ever in a ship. It always seemed like it was like the Delta Club,
Yeah,
at the
love,
airport or something.
Love boat.
It was a lounge. It never felt like it was moving or alive. And we talked about in one of the previous episodes we had about the Enterprise being a character. At this point, the Enterprise is so primitive it can't speak. It's just grunts and moans
Right.
and it's heaving itself from one point to the next, but it hasn't become refined at all.
So I think they did it like old world ships, old sailing ships.
Yeah.
The wood would creak,
Right.
the decks would rattle,
is-
and
Well, we know the Starship takes its inspiration from aircraft carriers, but this is literally like just one notch up. It's like, okay, we got an aircraft carrier to fly, and this thing is noisy, and you can picture pipes and stuff leaks, and it is not smooth. It is not polished.
no, it's not
Not compared to what we were used to later on.
not polished at all.
But Pike heads down into his quarters, and again, the contrast. You see a captain having a moment of weakness. He gets in his room, crashes on the bed in frustration, and calls for the doctor to come to his quarters, as soon as he gets there.
We never find out what he actually wanted him there for. That was interesting too.
No. Yeah.
Because he when the doc shows up, he's like, I didn't say there was anything wrong with me.
Yeah. The doc immediately goes in his bag. And I just caught the doctor's first name. It stuck in my mind because it was Dr. Phil. But I didn't catch his last name. But
I think it's Boyce.
But the doctor character is interesting too, because he and Pike had the same sort of relationship that McCoy and Kirk have, but there's a different dynamic because the doctor's older.
Yeah, I think in some of the remakes they try to make McCoy and Kirk contemporaries.
Yeah, they do.
And I never got that in the in the original series. I always thought McCoy was probably 10, 15 years older than Kirk.
McCoy's older.
But this guy's at least 30 years older than Pike.
Yeah, maybe not that old.
I don't know. Looks like he's in his 60s. I don't put Pike, much past his early 30s, but
No,
Yeah.
Pike's about 35, and this guy's about the doctor's about 56, going into his 60s.
Yeah, But the doctor comes in and he knows his captain. He knows the doctor, whatever Pike wanted, the doctor's coming there to address the real problem.
right.
And he comes in, and again, this show by comparison, especially for the time period, it's kind of edgy. It's very adult. Because what does the doctor do? Pike's sitting there talking about, Doc, I haven't even told you what I want. And the doc's like, no, I got you. And you hear he opens his bag, and you hear and Pike kind of goes, are you putting ice in the medicine? And the doctor turns around and goes, well, you don't want a warm martini, do you?
Mm-hmm.
So he's brought down the drink mixing kit, and he's
shaken and not stirred.
Shaken and not stirred, and he's on the rocks for Captain. He's like, you need a drink,
Yeah, you definitely not get that in our generation.
No, they're just like, you need a drink.
Yeah,
man.
because then the conversation is they start to go over Pike's failures recently, and that it cost him his crew's lives.
Yeah,
And the doc is basically, you're going to take my advice and you're going to go on a leave?
Mm-hmm.
And Pike is like, no, I'm thinking about resigning.
yeah, I'm thinking I'm
I'm
done.
tired of making these decisions. And when I make a wrong decision, somebody pays for their life.
Yeah,
And you can't function well as a Starship captain with that point of view, because that's your job.
Well,
And he's done. He throws a clipboard on the bed. He's like, I've had it.
it's definitely a moment of frustration, but the doctor knows. The doctor knows that in spite of how he's feeling in the moment, that Pike needs to be where he is.
well, the doctor also
Dr. Phil.
He also points out that Pike is holding himself to a level of responsibility that no one can
maintain.
No one can bear it. Pike is upset because when he entered into the fortress on Rigel 7, that when he saw the weapons, he didn't automatically respond to the potential
of
danger.
Right.
And they got trapped. And then individuals, they had to fight their way out.
Well, he got trapped. They were outside, and he couldn't get to them.
So like I say, he's weathered, and now he's lost more people from his point of his failure. And he's like, well, should I continue to do this job? And I'm getting tired because the decisions I make are decisions of who lives and who dies. And this is very important when it comes to submarines, like we did when we first did Balance of Terror.
Balance of Terror.
For those Men in Track individuals who have not seen it, go back and watch Balance of Terror. In a submarine,
first episode,
when a compartment is flooding,
that's any ship,
and you have to shut down. Though now a lot of ships have automatic systems, but you got to shut down the compartment to save the ship. You might have to send somebody in there, knowing that person ain't gonna get out. But it's either that person's life or the ship, and that's got to wear on you.
Of course, it's the burden of command.
And Pike is there, and he's like, I'm tired of making these decisions. But what sprung in my mind was something that was said in Blade Runner, and I'm talking about the original movie, where individual says, Decker's talking about same type of scenario. I'm tired of being a Blade Runner.
Yeah, when the movie starts, he had already quit.
And the guy goes, "You're either one of us or you're one of the little people. You have to make a
Stop
choice."
right where you are. You know the score, pal? If you're not cop, you're little people. No choice, huh? No choice, pal.
There it is. Yeah. You're either part of the system, or you're the gravel the system rolls over on.
Talks about. The doc says, "What are you gonna do?" He goes, "Well, maybe I'll go back. I got some horses and I'll load up a picnic basket." And he's like, "Oh, that sounds really exciting." Like, yeah, that's what you're gonna do to your Starship captain. And then Pike goes, "Yeah, well, there's other things I could do. I could set up business and then then he goes the other direction.
I could be an Orion trader."
He goes, "Dealing in slave women, and it's
he says green animal women.
Green animal women," and he's like. That's what it's going to take to keep Pike's fire lit. I mean, he's not going to go back to playing golf.
The animal women going to have cat ears and cat tails?
It would be done if it was done today. Yeah, probably would. No, they're just a little green. That's all. They're just a little green. Orion slave girls.
And we've seen the scene played out again in the later episodes with McCoy and Kirk, but for some reason this always felt a little bit more genuine to me.
Yes.
Yeah, Kirk had moments of doubt, but you never felt like Kirk was thinking about, except for the one episode, except for Court Martial, where he thought they might take it all from him.
And he's contemplating on what he could do afterwards.
Right, but he wasn't
going to give it up.
Yeah, he never in and of himself was ever at a point where he's like, I'm going to quit.
The genesis of the change didn't come from him, and that's where it is with Pike.
Right.
He's like, I think maybe I shouldn't be doing this anymore.
Right.
Because I'm not enjoying it, and this may be what I'm cut out for, but I've kind of got to that point where and we see it. Should you let somebody do 7 tours of duty?
No.
What happens? You come home and it's not, the environment is not what you can adjust to. Napoleon only took enough food for about 70% of his army because he knew about 30% casualties. That's the practical.
It's the logic.
Yeah, it's the logic. Should you run into a starship captain, on the golf course? No, he's not going to be able to.
He's got too many other concerns.
Yeah, but even post. How many starships? Well, we know of the 13 that went out. 12 of those captains didn't make it back, right?
Well, over time, those ships failed to return at some point. You don't really know how many tours they all had before they went down, but most of them had multiple tours before they went down. Yeah,
right. It's not a position that was created for an individual to have a long-term happy life, I believe, and that hence the sacrifice and the reward is so high.
I wouldn't say it like that. I think it became that. I don't think they thought it would be as hazardous as it really was. See, I think the overall vision was we're going to go out here and explore, and we're going to have some rough times. But I didn't think Starfleet, and Starfleet doesn't exist. This is Roddenberry's world. They didn't think being a starship captain would be as hazardous.
Well, I'll tell you the one thing that I did like, and I haven't seen all of them. I saw parts, maybe half or a third of it. The Enterprise with Jonathan Archer. There's a point at which he comes back and he's talking to a female captain that's ready to go out.
Yeah, it's the sister ship of the Enterprise.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, I can't wait to go." And he's like, "You don't know what's out there."
Yeah,
because there's things out there waiting for you.
Yeah, and that's actually a good piece of writing because she's like Archer was when he went out.
Absolutely, 100%.
And he's, it's season 3 of the show now, and he's been out there a minute. And he's like, "Hey, it is not what you think."
No. And like I said, I didn't. And I know that different series, different feel, different goals, but I just remember like that was the truth of it.
My thought on it was more probably coming from like how military careers actually go. Captain is like the pinnacle, and it's a young man's game. You're probably going to run some 3-4 tours, and then you're going to get kicked upstairs you're going to get a star, you're going to become an admiral.
Sure.
And you're going to be out of that game.
Right.
And your experience will be leading.
Right.
So that's the natural progression. No, you don't do 7 5-year tours.
Right.
You do 2, 3, maybe 4, and then, hey man, you did a great job. You survived. You're an admiral.
Yeah.
But
I think also too, one of the things that you don't get from Pike, and not that you ever got it from Kirk, but Roddenberry never really focused on those captains thinking about their promotion.
No, they wanted to be right where they were.
Right. And I think that was it. That was like it was like becoming an admiral was almost like, because I mean, Spock says it in one of he says on Wrath of Khan, I think he goes, if I may be so bold, it was a mistake for you to accept promotion.
Yes.
Like your first best destiny is commanding a starship.
Absolutely.
But it almost seems kind of strange that they would let somebody just continue to command a starship. Even if you were could an admiral do it? Could an admiral be assigned a starship in Starfleet? I don't know.
If you run the parallels of our Navy, could an admiral be on a starship in command of a larger force, a battle group or something?
Right.
100%. Commanding a single starship just out there tooling around? No way.
Yeah.
No way.
Right.
Too valuable of an asset.
Right.
You wouldn't do it. You just would not do it. Now, in the original series, you do see Commodores.
Right.
Which is the equivalent of a 1-star.
Yes.
You see Commodores running around commanding starships.
But I got the sense, at least in the original series, that the reason that was happening is because there weren't a lot of guys that were qualified to sit in the chair.
Could be.
And some of those Commodores, you could argue, were in the chair too long.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, too, if you want to get down into fleet dynamics, if you're the Commodore, like Commodore Deckard, the Constellation, theoretically, Commodore Deckard commanding the Constellation is actually the commander of a battle group, and there's 4 captains who command starships that answer to him.
Right.
And he controls a sector.
Yeah.
That's probably how it works.
Right. But the expectation of him being out on that ship is probably the further out you are, the more he's going to be out there with a ship patrolling. Yeah. But closer in, he would be off at space.
He's commander, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, that promotion is the equivalent of taking a desk job after being, out there running.
Yeah.
That's got to be a huge adjustment. But to your point, Pike is there.
And I think that there's a timing, though. Pike may be beyond that. He's talking about resigning.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 years prior to that, he might have thought about promotion.
Yeah.
But at this point, I think he's done.
Yeah.
He's had it.
At least in this moment where he's regretting his decision and grieving for the lost, and I think that's what that's what Dr. Phil's getting at. Dr. Phil is kind of telling him, hey, don't be hasty. You're still the guy. And I think Dr. Phil understands that beyond that after he gets through this rough patch, he'll be good to go again if he doesn't make a rash decision. That's what I got out of that byplay.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the doc is trying to get him through this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think he would have told him. He would have encouraged him. Yeah, you're probably right. It's time to stop.
Right.
Let's get to Vega. Let's make a few phone calls, and you're probably right. But he was telling him, you're going through something right now. It's normal to feel this way, but you've still got a job to do, and there's still utility in what it is that you can bring to that position. So
absolutely,
he hangs it.
He was not going to stop until he got to the proper place to turn it over.
Yeah, he's not quitting when they get to Vega.
Yeah, he wouldn't quit midstream. I mean,
yeah, he's not quitting when they get to Vega.
I'm done. Number one, take over.
But if he follows through on it, following this mission, probably after making sure everything's squared away, he starts that process.
Well, they'll find something else for him. They'll give him a desk job. They'll give him a teaching job, something that doesn't require him.
Well, we were saying, you eventually got to get promoted. You can only run those tours, 5-year tours.
And that was one of the things in the Abrams movie where Kirk was still in his first 5 year, and he was talking about
Kirk
quitting.
was straight out of the academy.
Yeah, but he was.
And then in the second movie, he's on his first 5-year mission.
Yeah, but no, the third movie,
he's on his first 5-year mission. Yeah,
I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah, I saw it.
But he's like, I'm done.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know if this is for me.
Well, he's like, I'm done. He talked to some admiral or something, and she's like,
Yeah, he does go. He does go to quit.
I like Spock to take over from me, and I'm finished. And he's been out there for a hot minute.
Yeah, he hasn't even been out there any time, really. Not even, maybe a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just don't make them like they used to.
No, they don't.
Well, they don't make the writing like they used to.
Oh, yeah, there's that.
And
that's kind of the point. But the Dr. Phil and Pike's conversation is interrupted because Spock chimes in.
Says, I got just what you need, Captain.
Spock chimes in, and this is funny because Spock with emotions, when Pike says, no, we're not going, Spock looks disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
When Spock calls him up and goes, Captain, we found proof of survivors, Spock's kind of like, and we're going, right?
That's right.
And we're going. Yeah, we're going to do what I want to do. We're going to go to the planet and save the people, right?
Come up here and read this off the fax machine.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, there's something on the console spitting out paper.
There was a guy under the console just feeding that paper.
Pushing paper out, yeah.
Paper through there.
But Happy Spock is saying, we found survivors. And I never caught this until we were watching it this time. This is the Talosians manipulating circumstances.
Oh, absolutely.
From huge range.
Absolutely.
Huge range.
Absolutely. The whole conversation between the captain and the doctor.
Not that.
Hold on. The Talosians do that to him on planet. We'll get there. But yeah, the Talosians, because the doctor says it later on, they gave us what we were looking for.
Yeah.
On the planet.
On the planet. So when Pike says, hey, if there's no survivors, we're not going there, Talosians go,
that's where I'm going.
Yes, you are, because we're going to give you survivors.
So is that what you need to come in?
That's what you need?
Yeah.
That's what we need to motivate you to
So the Talosians
give
have
you exactly what you need.
Talosians have huge reach.
Huge reach.
Because they haven't even pushed the magic button in warp 7 yet.
Well, we see in
You got to remember that the Talosians are reaching out to a ship at
warp speed. Time warp speed.
They're reaching out to that, and they're reading the thoughts.
The hyperdrive.
They're reading the thoughts of somebody in hyperspace. Because what was it? What were we doing something recently where somebody said they've got mental abilities and don't underestimate the impact of those?
Yeah, that was Spectre of the
Gun.
Spectre of the Gun.
And Spock says it. Spock's like, don't mess with these. What were they? D&D? What were they? Illusionists?
Yes.
Yeah. Don't mess with these illusionists.
Spock's having Cage flashbacks.
That's right.
Spock's like, oh no, not telepaths.
You said that when we were doing Spectre of the Gun.
Yeah.
The individuals with the ability to make you believe
or see
something as if it is real
bad
are vastly more powerful than you are, because they can make you do things that you wouldn't normally do.
Right.
In the space of, you would, I need to push this button to get this response, but they make the button you're pushing look like the button you shouldn't push.
The explode button.
Oh yeah, that's bad.
Don't push the explode button.
Well, the Talosians, they say at one point, we can't really work with you because you're going to learn this and you're going to kill yourself.
Right.
So, yeah, that's interesting, too, that it's something that can be...
It's that powerful.
Yeah.
But
not only that powerful, something that you can pick up.
Yep. You can learn it.
So they give them a definitive, we can't ignore this. And then...
Which need to come?
So when
well, it's like there's like 12 survivors, or we have some survivors, we have food, we have water, but we need...
Yeah.
Like the message cuts off.
The Talosians are great. The Talosians know just how to get you.
That's right.
Oh, they're in danger. We got to do our thing. We gotta go rescue.
Yeah.
But so then we get the first ever warp scene, basically.
Yeah.
And Pike orders time warp drive factor 7. And they do
hold up their fingers.
And they do this really funky thing where they transpose the star field over them, and they give you and they make a big deal out of the music starts playing, and it's like, hey, we're at warp. Isn't it cool?
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I'm glad they lost.
That wasn't very good.
But remember, this is a pilot being done for the soups, and they do that so the soups have a point of reference.
Suits?
The suits. I'm saying
soups.
Yeah, the suits.
Not soups. Suits.
The suits at Paramount. And they did that for them to have a point of reference. Remember, we're looking at a pilot. So they do that funky Starfield, and we're glad didn't need for the audience.
Did you think this funky Starfield was a visual metaphor, or was that
it's
actually
got the Flintstones, because it's the same Starfield that's going by.
Was that a visual metaphor, or was that happening?
What do you mean? Was that a visual? That was a visual metaphor of the movie.
Was it, or did they actually say when this thing's being used, that's the effect? That's what you see.
Oh.
They never said. I always took it as a visual metaphor of them moving.
I always made that assumption, but when I looked at it this time, I was like, I wonder. Because when you watch the actors, when they stop, they all kind of make a point of reacting like, ooh, just came out of warp. People kind of...
Well, no, I tell you, the helmsman doesn't speak to Pike. He holds up 7 fingers.
Right. For that whole sequence, nobody speaks. Yeah. Nobody moves. And it's almost like, hold on, guys, we're about to do the thing. And it happens, and everybody's just kind of like, all right.
Like I said, I always took it as something that was done for the...
But you're right, with the time travel that they do later on in the movies, you're almost incapacitated during time travel.
I questioned it this time because I was watching what the actors did. Because when they stop, one guy standing by the door actually stumbles. He actually kind of like, whoa.
No, I think you're right. I think they made this some sort of temporal effect.
Yeah, he actually
does
that
you lose the ability to speak, and you're just your consciousness is slightly altered.
People on the bridge did varying degrees of reacting to it, showing discomfort.
I always took that as reacting to the motion of the ship moving, and not the starfield was only necessary to let us know the ship was moving. But that was just me. I didn't read into it as much as you did.
Well, I never did before either, but I'm watching it and I'm like, what did they intend there? I'm not reading too much. No. See the stars, Daystrom. See the stars.
Too much April.
See the stars.
But they do a lot of little things.
Yes.
They clue in because the bandages on the cruise. One guy.
That's what I was talking about.
One guy has a bandage on his neck, and the guy's got a bandage on his hand, and Spocko's limping.
And this
Spock is limping. His left leg.
Yeah. And it's cool because even in the other episodes of the series, 7 people got hurt. That would be sad. You wouldn't see anybody hurt.
No.
But in this episode,
they'd be joking like nothing happened.
And if you got hurt, they got you off the bridge.
Right.
You wouldn't be working with a.
But in this episode, the guys that got hurt are walking around still working, and you see them.
They didn't get a day off.
No.
Man, somebody needs to call the Social Security or somebody.
That guy in the hallway in his Bermuda shorts was not hurt.
Man, they should have. They should. What good is a ship doctor if I can't get a day off for my sprained wrist?
That doctor wrapped your wrist and sent you back to duty.
No, something's wrong.
Take
here.
some Motrin. Welcome to the military.
Man, what's up with Star Trek?
Pike says there's 203 crew members on board, and what we're assuming is that was a normal complement.
Yeah.
But we know later on how many do you need to have on there? About four. What do we say?
The crew count in the original series sits at, depending on who you ask, it's anywhere from like 410, 415 to 430.
Let's just say 400.
Yeah.
So the assumption we made when we saw 203 was, well, that's what they need to run the ship. What if Pike is down 200 crew members, and that's why everybody's working with all these injuries?
I didn't get that. I didn't get that.
No, I just took it as a crew. The compliment was a lot. It was a
Small.
lot sparser ship.
Yeah, somewhere along the way they decided to put more people in it. Conceptually,
I don't know. Maybe Pike's had a bad run. Maybe he's lost 200 of these
you don't get to keep your ship when you lose half the crew.
Let me get back to my point, man. Don't I get a break? Don't I get an off day?
No. Motrin.
I gotta drag myself up. I gotta get shot by the doc and drag myself up to my duty station.
Take a Motrin and suck it up.
And you people want to be in Star Trek. Y'all crazy.
I
want my sick days.
Take some Motrin and get to your station.
Spock dragging around a fractured ankle on the planet.
Yeah.
Looks like he can barely walk.
Spock doesn't even have Vulcan points yet.
Nope.
He's not stronger.
We don't know that. It's not played out.
Hey, somebody beat Spock up. And Spock doesn't get beat up. So
right.
Somebody beat Spock up.
He tripped, man.
No, he didn't trip. The barbarian with bad teeth worked him over. Spock got beat up like everybody else.
That's right. He probably grabbed Spock by the ankle and was using him to hit everybody with.
Oh, my goodness.
So they arrive at the planet, and the captain's like, who's down for the landing party? And some of the guys are like, I'll go, And he leaves number one on the ship. He says, I need my best officer up here watching over everything.
We're going to blow right past the bumping into the yeoman.
Yeah, we got to cover that.
We got to cover that? Okay, cover
bumping into the yeoman.
Bumping into yeomans wasn't that important to me.
Yes, it was, because it deals with the character of the captain.
Okay.
And number one.
Well,
so they do their warp. They come upon the planet, and then they do the scan, and they find out that there's metal debris that is consistent with the ship crashing.
Ship wreckage.
Talosians are laying it on thick for them.
Well, the Talosians can't get it wrong because they're pulling it straight out of their head. What would you expect?
What would you expect? Let's give it to them. So they're preparing to go down, and the yeoman. See, where the heck is the yeoman? The yeoman comes on board.
Redhead Slim, you can't miss her. And she's a red shirt, although that shade of red is kind of hard to pick out. But
that's when he first gets back on the bridge.
Yeah, so.
And basically he bumps into her.
And he's angry.
He's
like, what are you doing here?
Right. She's like,
I don't want a yeoman.
I'm bringing you the reports you wanted at 5 a.m. And it's 5 a.m., so here's your reports.
Is it 5 a.m. or 5 p.m.?
0500.
Yeah, that's 5 a.m.
It's 5 a.m.
Yeah, that's Old Dark 30. Pike's on the bridge at 5 o'clock in the morning.
So whenever you get there.
Probably wouldn't normally be, but because of what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wow, there is a lot of female crew members.
Yeah, there's a heavy female representation. It seemed like Roddenberry couldn't have the
He couldn't have aliens?
Well, no, Roddenberry couldn't
have Chinamen?
Well,
Chinamen.
He couldn't have all the various nationalities represented in the series as we know it. But in this pilot, he seemed to compensate for it by having heavy female representation. There's a lot of women on the bridge, more than you ever see any other time.
Well, that's one of the things that Pike says. He goes, I'm not used to having women on the bridge.
Right.
And then number one looks at him, and he goes, I didn't mean you.
Not you.
You don't count.
Oh, yeah. His girl next door, yeoman, shows up, and she provides the paperwork. And
she looks like she's 16.
Yep, and he barks at her. And then his statement, which is an attack on both of the women, which you cannot have today, because he doesn't see number one as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 is an emotional ice cube with female parts.
Okay. I mean, an emotionalist.
Emotionalist. There we go. With female parts.
Gonna help you dig.
He doesn't see her. Hey, it's not me. I didn't write this. You guys go yell at Roddenberry.
Hey, they would if they could. Roddenberry's out of their reach.
The point is, there's a different writing style, and we said this about our generation track.
Yeah.
The track that we know, from what you could produce today, because there's no box checking. You could say things more liberally and get away with it than having the masses rile up against you.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you more liberty or more freedom to write stories. Because you could have a guy who's offensive and the story rocks on, you get over it, or the guy learns from it.
Right.
Now at this day, you can't have anybody offensive at all, or the masses will rebel.
Or if the person is offensive, they're trapped in the role of the villain from there until whatever time they're eliminated.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things he does say to her, number 1, who ends up being Nurse Chapel.
Yeah, that's Michelle Barrett.
Yeah, he says, I got to leave you on board because the most experienced officer should be here when I'm gone.
Yep.
So, I mean, immediate props there.
Yeah, I mean, they play her character off like she's it.
I like the number 1.
I do. I did too.
I think she's a very good character.
The character plays well throughout the episode. Just like we talked about, we would have liked to have seen what could have been done with these characters.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. So are you done with the yeoman? You happy?
Yeah, I'm happy.
You good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the 16-year-old gets thrown off the bridge, and they put together the landing party. And this was what I liked. One of the things I liked about this is a real landing party.
They're getting suited up.
Hey, guys. I'm sorry. In the main series, you grab a phaser. The only thing you're carrying that you don't carry all the time is you grab a phaser
And the communicator.
Maybe guys seem
you don't carry a communicator all the time.
Sometimes they seem to, but you grab a phaser, maybe a tricorder, and you in the same thing you wore on the bridge, and you beam down. Just here we go.
Yeah, but remember,
don't even have a cold drink of water with you.
But remember, this crew just got their butts handed to
But
them.
no,
I ain't
this
going down.
No, this is
I'm
SOP.
not going down without a crowbar.
This is SOP. These guys got jackets, phasers, web belts. They got gear. They got gear.
Backpack ready to rumble.
Backpack with a little antenna pointing.
Heavy equipment. This is a real landing party. These guys we going down to the planet. We don't know what's there.
We're going to set up our flag and protect this place.
Yeah, this is a real landing party.
This is...
I got a jacket. Why? The wind might be blowing when I get that, when I materialize. This is a much more realistic imagery of okay, we're going down.
Do you remember the one episode where the transporter was out because they had beamed up? Kirk had split in two.
Yeah,
there was a little mean dog and a little nice dog. And they were down on the planet.
Freezing
it was like
death.
90 below.
Yeah, the temperature was dropping.
And they're trying to use the phaser to heat up the rocks.
Yeah, that was
before they had regular bridge uniforms on.
They had some emergency blankets and stuff from somewhere, but that was before they cooked up shuttlecraft.
Yeah, no hat, no gloves, nothing.
Mm-hmm. And they knew, and the whole premise of that episode was, yes, this planet has radical temperature drop after this time of day. But it's cool. We're going to beam down and do what we need to do and beam right back. Nothing will go wrong.
You got to be prepared for the eventualities of FUBAR.
Captain, can I bring a protein bar and a hoodie?
You don't need it. We're going to be right back.
If you tell me that after 6 o'clock the temperature is going to be negative 40, I'm bringing an igloo and a parka.
The pilot is a much smarter Star Trek than the Star Trek we were given.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because the suits,
and it's more grounded in reality.
Suits dumbed it down.
Yeah.
because they thought it was too cerebral.
And there's
for
probably
masses.
budgetary concerns too.
Oh,
But
without a doubt, it's going to be budget. It was budgetary concerns because now you got to design jackets. You got to buy jackets for the crew members going down. You got to have the props and all that. You need more prop men to keep track of all this stuff. So,
but I'm sorry, this is my kind of landing party.
Mm-hmm.
I got a jacket, 2 phasers, communicator.
I don't know why they don't beam down with phaser rifles, man. I'd be loaded to the gills.
Well, the way a
I'd be like,
the way a phaser works, you just
I have one on each ankle. So, man, you can't have enough phaser. I have a belt going across like this with little batteries.
We're phaser pack.
Phaser pack, man. You can't have enough.
You know,
I'd be
what
like
Captain. You know what Captain Tracy said about your type 2 phaser. 1 is none, 2 is 1.
I'd be like, Tracy, man, I'm burning them.
And 12 is not enough.
You come up on me and you don't look friendly? You ain't smiling? Oh, my old buddy.
Daystrom, you sure you don't want to wear red? You sound like you red at heart.
Oh, buddy. There are bodies that bear hack better than my own.
Yes, sir. So our well-equipped landing party beams down, and they find a survivor settlement exactly as they imagined.
Yep.
Exactly as they imagine, with old crusties,
Brave and noble survivors.
brave and noble survivors.
And what you called out earlier, this is not the Federation. This is the United Earthship Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
United Spaceship Enterprise is what he actually says.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the Federation, they don't say it. They don't say Federation in the original series for a long time.
No.
Right.
That's something that comes up later. But yeah, this is definitely a different thing. And they beam down and they find the old scientists who've managed to survive despite all the odds. And boy, are they glad to see you. And, you know, and then the only thing that seems out of place.
Ooh-wee.
But they have an explanation.
They have an
for it
explanation
right off the bat.
Sparkling blue eyes and blonde hair.
Blue eyes, blonde hair.
In a planet full of crusty men.
With not necessarily a petite body, but so that in between athletic and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim said it.
this is definitely the ooey of the pilot.
Yeah.
Although the number one is not a bad looking woman, neither is the yeoman. And
we have opinions as we always do.
and there's another girl up by the what would be science
Science station.
station.
Yeah. It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, they got their numbers, man. In the Trek we only got stuck with one. Not putting a whore down, but it would have been nice to have 3 or 4.
Well, it was a great one, but it was one.
Yeah.
Now you guys, you can throw Yeoman Rand away, but I'll tell you.
Well, they threw Yeoman Rand away. You
I
don't
know,
see
but
her
why
after
she was there? I mean, I know.
Yeoman Rand was all right.
We've been through that. We
rehash Yeoman Rand?
No.
I'm still carrying the torch from Marlena Monroe.
Oh, Marlena.
I'm still carrying that torch.
You can't have Marlena.
Yes, I can.
Who's the one on shore leave? The lieutenant? That was mine. The brunette.
Yeah.
Shows you how much I.
See, you're supposed to remember her name.
I know.
Yeah, that's yours.
I know.
Can't you remember yours name?
No.
See,
I sure remember mine.
see,
Wow.
that's gonna get you into an early grave. That's not.
We got to redo that one. You know what I was thinking we do? This is what we do with Space Seed. We're gonna do Space Seed, and then we'll do Wrath of Khan. We'll actually do the movie.
The power wasn't space seed.
She was.
That's
time.
right. I'm sorry
She's
about
a mock
that.
time.
Yeah, mock time. Never mind.
She's in the movie. Well, yeah, she is in the movies, but
Let's get back on track, man. On track.
and actually, you got it wrong. It's not Tupile. That's the old lady.
Oh, it's T'Pring.
Yeah, see,
T'Pring.
Yeah.
It's a 2.
you like older women. That's what you just confessed.
Well, she's older than
A
me.
lot older, like old enough to be your granny. But anyway,
So they find the
encampment
and these old senior gentlemen who are still
and Vina.
very kind and very professional.
Yeah, they're scientists.
taking care of their jobs, and Vina comes in,
Vina.
and they have a quick explanation. She was born
She
right
was
after
a young.
the crash.
She was a young child on the ship. Yeah.
No, she
Or
was
born after the crash.
Born
right.
after the crash. So that puts, because they've been there 18 years.
Right. Raised after the fact.
Yeoman Tonya Barrows.
Yes,
Yeah,
Yeoman
Shirley
Barrows.
So she,
Oh my. Hey no.
so if you watch her, she is all in.
She zeroes in on Pike immediately.
She is biting
That's the only thing.
hard.
That's the only thing real as far as she's concerned.
I'm surprised that he's not showing teeth marks in his arm.
She's separate, and
She doesn't even blink.
when you're watching,
She's got
it,
that McCoy mind meld stare going
yeah,
on with him.
when you watch it in the context of what's going on, and you understand, it's not even flirtatious or romantic. It's
Your mind.
it's there's the target.
That's that hungry. You talk about that hungry look. You
Oh,
know, when
yeah.
somebody gives you that
oh
hungry look.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's well
She was-
it's
She
well
was
acted.
hungry.
It's well acted because it foreshadows this is a trap.
Oh yeah.
She's checking the boxes. She's like, you're healthy, you're this, you're that, you're the alpha male on the ground.
He should be saying, "Ouch, ouch, ouch, man, that mosquito." He should be fighting it off
No.
because her eyes are just boring into him.
He should have looked at Spock and said, "I got that same feeling before we got jumped on Rigel 7.
He-
I got that same."
He is locked on target. I mean, she is locked on target. Her
But
eyes
it's-
are not going nowhere else. Nobody else exists.
And
But
the old guy
assessment.
goes, well, we got a secret. Why don't you go show him what our secret is?
And yeah, she's like, "Come with
There's
me."
a special cave that
Yeah,
you
go,
Because-
why don't you go
come
look
back
at it?
into.
Why don't you go look at our secret?
Because the doctor has found out right on cue. The doctor's
perfect.
like, everybody's healthy, too healthy, in fact. They're not malnourished. They're not this. They're not that. And before the doctor can even get into how off this is, the old guy immediately is like, "Oh, because we have a secret."
Mm-hmm.
And Vina leads our captain off to, ostensibly the Fountain of Youth.
Mm-hmm.
Heading for
Well,
the
it didn't do the old guys very good, but it kept them healthy.
kept
Yeah.
him spry.
Yeah.
Kept him spry.
Because Vina been eating her Wheaties, that's for sure.
Well,
She ain't
maybe
she not malnourished. And there's some oil of Valet plants or something around there because her skin is popping. I'm telling you. She ain't sunburnt. She ain't withered.
aloe,
Man, she done found something.
vitamin E. There was aloe on the planet.
Found something. She takes him by the hand and spry, pulls him up the mountain to the secret.
To the secret.
She wants to show you her secret.
And the secret is she disappears,
Yep.
and a door opens in the side
Big
of the cliff.
booty-headed guys. Come on.
Triple the head, triple the size of the brain.
Now,
The brainiac.
when I was a kid, me and my older brother, when we saw the menagerie, I used to think of these guys as the booty-headed guys because they remind me of the guys from Planet of the Apes. Those guys in Planet of the Apes with the big heads with mind control.
Yeah. Well, similar idea.
What was that battle for?
Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
See, that's not Planet of the Apes.
Well, it was a Planet of the Apes
yeah,
ripoff.
yeah.
But
yeah.
it's the mind control. We used to call them booty heads because they had the two hemispheres. And when you look at the back of it, it looks like
It's very
it looks like posterior.
It's very sophisticated.
Looks like a posterior.
Yeah.
To be honest, it looks like
And
somebody's somebody's butts on their head.
the chief booty head had a pulsating booty head.
Hey, the pulsate.
Yeah.
His booty pulsated.
They all did. Yeah. They
No,
had varicose.
I looked at the other booty heads. I didn't see him
they
pulsating.
had varicose veins. They were
That blood flow, man, for that big head.
their brain.
And the thing is, when the booty heads jump out to grab Pike, they got this little yellow sparkler thingy that shoots a little bit of gas at
Yeah.
them.
Looked like a sonic screwdriver.
That magic wand.
Magic
Yeah.
wand.
They slipped the captain a Mickey.
But what's funny is Vina takes him up there, and she's going, "Look around, can't you see it?" And he's like,
See what?
"What are you talking about?"
But that was all. But that whole thing was look that way,
Right.
and the hatch opens behind him,
And she just disappears. She's gone.
and he's like, "What?"
And
And then, pow.
see, that's what happens.
Pow.
That woman leads you to look one way, and then you're deep six from the other.
Well, you ought to know, T'Pring fan.
Be careful which way you look. Yeah, Dupree was mean. Dupree was mean. I think she was very, very, very good looking.
Mean girls always look
She was
like that.
mean. You know, why are they drawn like that?
Mean girl. Evil always looks that way.
And then back in the camp, the old guys disappear.
The whole camp vanishes.
Just vanishes.
The whole camp vanishes. And the young helmsman, whose name has escaped me, I keep wanting to call him Kelso.
Let's call him Kelso.
Yeah. Okay. Junior Kelso. He's the one that first notices the captain getting jacked and runs off. Phaser at the ready.
Man, he's saving this captain, man. He's saving this captain. Because I bet you Pike saved his life, jumped in there and beat one of them big dudes down and rescued Kelso. So he's doing his best to save
Kelso
his captain.
jumps off that set.
Yeah.
It's probably 8-10 feet. He jumps off that cliff, turns around and starts firing with his.
It wasn't that high.
It was pretty big.
No, it's about 4.
Rewind it. Take a look at that. It's pretty big.
It's about 4.
So they drag Pike in, take him out, and the crew runs up, and they break out are they phasers?
Or disruptors.
Or disruptors or lasers?
I think they're lasers.
They're laser guns.
But they bust out those OG hand weapons, and they get to blazing.
Watch this.
See, it's only about 4
feet. Watch when he jumps down. Ooh. It's over his head. It'll be at least 6 feet.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
And they all fire.
Yeah, they go at it.
Some rock. And there's a
the doors behind the rock.
there, and Kelso ain't stopping.
No.
He's gonna empty his phaser.
He's burning it.
Mm-hmm.
And Spock's looking at him like, "You gonna quit?" And Spock calls it in. Spock calls it in. Spock calls it in the number 1. He's like,
one Adam 12, one Adam 12.
Spock calls it in. He's like, "Man down."
That's right.
They done took the captain.
That's right. It's all been a lie.
Oh, Spock looks upset.
Yeah. Spock's very emotional. Mm-hmm. Spock calls it in the number 1. And even going back to what we were talking about before, it's a cool progression because Spock is the 3rd officer at this point.
Right.
It makes perfect sense that he moves up to first officer later on. But Spock calls it into number 1. Number 1's like, what? They did what? And they're down there like, and we blazing away with our weapons, and it is not working.
None effect.
And it's like, we got a remedy for that. They're like, oh, we can fix this.
The writing, the way it does it, the progressions are very cool.
Yeah.
Because they blink from that scene over to Pike.
Pike in the cell.
And Pike's in the cell. He's laid out in a blanket.
With his blanket.
With a little blankie laid across him, to keep him warm.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has to figure out that he is now in the menagerie. He's
in the cage.
He's in the cage.
He gets up and he tries the plexiglass and, all the usual futile things.
Sees down the other cells. There's some creatures there.
Yeah,
realizes he's on display.
Space gorilla, Birdman. He's in the zoo.
He's in the zoo.
The menagerie.
He's in the zoo.
And we talked about the shape of the corridor was reminiscent of Forbidden Planet.
Forbidden Planet,
yeah.
Had that same vibe.
Yeah. For those of you who aren't familiar with Forbidden Planet, if you can, watch that if you're a big sci-fi fan, because you're going to see the archetypes of many things.
Yeah, Forbidden Planet is kind of that groundbreaking 1950s sci-fi movie, and a lot was inspired by it for sure.
Yeah.
Including another franchise that we find ourselves dragged back to all the time.
Oh.
But Star Trek 2, actually. But
then down the hallway he sees a big booty head.
And then 2 more booty heads. 3 booty heads. 4.
Well,
4 booty heads come out the elevator.
Well, the booty head in charge is called the Magistrate.
That crack? Tell me that's not a booty.
One of the things I noticed and that is that the rocks are almost translucent on the sets. Like they went all out on the sets.
Yeah, they did their very best.
Yeah.
To be 1965.
Yeah.
It looks pretty good, especially with no remaster.
Right.
This is what it was.
Yeah, this is raw.
And then we had the debate, and I'm wondering if people watching, I always had this sense, and I still do, that all the booty heads were women.
No,
even though they called them hims and he's and stuff,
they were
all the booty heads to me appeared to be women.
They were dudes.
Oh.
They were definitely dudes.
That's interesting.
That's what they.
I'm not sure.
They were dudes. You mean the characters or the actors?
The actors. We're talking about the actors.
No, they were men.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they were men. They were certainly intended to be men in the narrative, or male, I should say. Because clearly, with heads like that, they're not men.
Okay.
Didn't you get enough girls in this episode? You looking for more?
No, I just when I saw the facial structure, I thought,
No,
they kind of look like grannies.
That's the makeup.
Look like grannies.
No, because they got full prosthetic coming all the way down. The ears, the everything. They got a lot of makeup on.
Oh, yeah, they do, and it's good makeup too.
And they deliberately gave them almost an elven look. They deliberately narrowed their faces and gave them a certain kind of a tapered look, because it's consistent with all of them. Even the one that appears to be younger.
So the head Talosian is
the magistrate
explaining everything that Pike is going through emotionally and intellectually
before he even
does it, and it sort of gets on Pike's nerve.
Next, he will have a display of violence.
Right.
Then he
will tell us how great his ship is and how much power they have and all this stuff.
Yeah.
He just totally disarms him.
Yeah, steals his thunder. Pike's standing there like, you.
And then the Talosian said, yeah, time for the experiment, buddy. We're going to probe you. Get ready to be probed, Pike.
Prepare to entertain us.
Prepare to be alien probed.
Meanwhile, back on the Enterprise, number one is that they're in the conference room. Radically different. Actually, not that different, shot from a different angle. The arrangement's different. But the crew quickly figures out that they're dealing with illusionists. The doctor explains his theory that they can probably make them see anything that they want them to see.
Well, the doctor points it out. He goes, everything we've seen was arranged for us.
Right.
And they have been entirely logical right down to the arrangements of the camp and what we would see in the camp. Right. So the doctor gives you that exposition.
Right.
To let you understand what's truly going on.
Right.
And the Talosians are an enemy that they're not really capable of fighting.
Right.
And it's sort of, once again, just like Spectre of the Gun. You're dealing with mentalists who have...
Meg Wiley, a woman. She played the first ever villain in the Star Trek The Talosian Keeper in the pilot episode The Cage.
So that first person is a woman, unlike...
Okay. So the magistrate is a woman. With a male voiceover.
Yep. Right. Yep.
Yep. When Palpatine said it, and I start to look at the character facial structure, I was like, yeah, that looks more female, more feminine than a man would look at that age.
I was more thinking, because considering how small they are, I was just thinking they did like they did with Tranya Baby, and they just went out and found some kids.
Yeah. You know, I'll tell you, this is a little bit off topic, but that's what Men on Trek do.
We go off track.
Voiceovers, when we talked about Tranya, the creepiness there. Oh, yeah. Now that you know this is a woman and you watch this, there's a level of creepiness there. But I'll tell you, the thing that when I was a kid, this was the creepiest voiceover thing I ever saw. There was a movie called The Fly with Vincent Price, black and white.
The original Fly.
The original Fly.
Yeah.
And what happens is that a man and a fly get caught in a transformational machine
transporter
thing. Right. And the man ends up with a fly's head, and the fly ends up with a man's head. And at the end of it, the fly gets caught in a spider's web.
Help me.
Help me, please. Somebody help me.
And they throw a brick at him.
Yeah. But he's like laying there with this little creepy bald head with this voiceover, like screaming for help. And it goes on for a while.
Yeah,
it's not like, please help me, and it's the end. It's like 90 seconds of this thing just pleading for help.
And
it was voiceover
while the spider was coming.
Yeah, it was voiceover and that's that creepiness that I feel, because even in this with the booty head, Chief Booty Head, like it was a woman.
So humans, we get used to ratios, and certain body types you expect a certain sound from because of the mass or maybe the way, the thickness of the neck or whatever, our vocal cords. That's one thing that Mike Tyson had a problem with. He had that young voice, that little boy voice, but he had a man's body.
Phenomenal cosmic power.
He had a man's body. So those things throw us off because we we get used to what is expected.
Right.
And when it's unexpected, now this making the number one Talosian a woman throws you off because something doesn't sit right by the way the character looks.
But then you hear a male voice.
But you hear a male voice. And you're like, and you write it off, as you were saying, Admiral, as they were androgynous. But as I start to look at them, like, they're meant to be.
I knew they were small, and I knew with their features being what it was. I wrote it up to maybe they use kids and the makeup. But it's even better. I mean, the way they go about it. So I'm gonna take a woman, and I'm gonna put all this makeup on her, and then I'm gonna do a male voiceover, and the effect is going to be totally mess with your head.
Messes with you
on a subconscious level. You're sitting there looking at it, going, "There's something wrong."
Once
with
again,
this.
Spectre of the gun. It messes with you. There's something about it
Yeah.
that doesn't sit right.
Yeah.
And it leaves you like a little grimy.
Remember in Galaxy Quest when the image generator and what they actually looked at? I'm wondering if this is if you go a little bit deeper, do the Talosians really look like
this?
that? Or is that like what they picked out of that human mind that they should look like? They should have the big heads and they should be androgynous.
That's
they
a good
should wear
point.
silver robes.
We'll never know.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Just to let you know that Booty Head number 2 was played by Serena Sandy.
Also,
So they were all women.
No, and then the one that's got like the heavier face, the one that his name is Felix Sela, and that is a man.
Okay. What about the fourth one, the young looking?
They didn't.
I
I don't
think
have
that's
that
a
one
man.
listed.
I think the fourth one's a man.
Yeah.
I think that one's a kid, like a young boy, probably like a teenage 20-year-old guy.
But that's interesting in how it's produced and the feel it gives you. But
And it's subtle. Like I rationalized it away. I came up with an answer for myself, but you guys looked at it and went, "No, there's something wrong here."
there's something wrong. You gotta be careful with Roddenberry.
It's tricky.
Be careful, man.
Tricky.
You gotta be careful. So they're back from the tangent, back onto Men on Track Online. They're in the Enterprise, and they're at the conference table, and they're having their breakdown. And the ship's doctor is telling them, "Look, man, we're in a tight spot because these beings with this mental power can have us do anything,
Right.
and we not knowing that we're doing it,
Right.
Because
they make us see whatever they want.
They make the illusion so realistic because it's based on what's already in our mind. They're giving us what we expect, just like Roddenberry and the creative staff gave us what we did not expect. It made us feel a certain way.
Right.
The illusionists are giving, beyond Roddenberry and them being illusionists,
The writer.
they're the illusionists, the Talosians, are giving you what you expect. So you don't give it a second thought.
Right.
Because what? It doesn't give you a off jive. You expect it.
Right.
So you accept it.
That's beautiful. So as they're going through in the conference, and they're each saying their own thing. Spock deals with the terrain and what was done, and the doctor gives his breakdown, and he's making the point, what do we do about this? And he goes,
Anything we do could be bad because we don't know.
right. And our Kelso character is like, well, hey man, my captain saved me. I'm using that. You can be mad at me.
He's
Pike-
definitely loyal to the
Pike saved Kelso, and Kelso's going down there no matter what.
Right.
If I got a mutiny,
And Spock's on board, but Spock's understanding what the doctor's saying. He's like, "Hey, these guys are smarter than us. We gotta figure out how to deal with them." But the first thought is, let's beam the cannon down and take a run at it with the cannon, basically, and see what happens.
Well, and then Spock says, "Look, their brains are 3 times bigger than ours."
Yeah.
And there's like a police sketch of them. I thought that was that's Roddenberry. Well, Roddenberry was a cop, wasn't he? Yeah, I think he was a cop.
He did after the Navy, yes.
Yeah, he was a cop. It's a police sketch of an alien.
big booty head with veins sticking out.
Yeah,
You seen his head?
you seen his head?
Call the police. So they beam down. Well, they never call the device by name, but this is a device that can channel the power of the ship and is effectively a cannon.
It is a cannon.
Yeah.
Because the Kelso character says, let's beam down with a cannon because we can blow half the continent away. So let's get down there and let's do something. Let's get my captain. Rescue my old man.
So they beam down with the cannon, the Wi-Fi cannon. They beam down with the cannon. They set it up, and they say, this thing should blow the top of that hill off, blow the top of that hill away. And they go at it. They go and they burn it for a long time, and it appears not to have done anything. But the doctor reiterates, we may have sheared off the whole top of the hill, and we would never know.
He says it.
We would never know.
Yeah.
So the Talosians are trying to figure out how to get Pike invested in the female.
Oh, one thing in the briefing room when they break up, again, the feel of the show, and number one is definitely in charge.
Oh yeah.
When the briefing is done,
she stands
and everybody snaps to, and she's in control. She dismisses the briefing, but it's military decorum. They snap to for the officer in charge, and when she walks out, then they move.
Yeah. I think she played it really well too, because throughout the whole episode, you can tell she's there to do a job, and not much more. In other words, you're not getting. She'd be one of those people where when you came to promote her, she'd say, "Let me get back with you," and take it. She'd take the promotion, but you can tell she's not driven by. She's capable and competent, but she's not driven by ambition. She's going to do her job right now the best that she can do it. That's the sense that I got from her.
Well, what's also good is we find later on in the episode there's multi-layers to these characters, and we find out there's another layer to her.
Well, there is for everyone.
What she delivers
in real life, there's layers to everybody, but in TV shows, there's not necessarily.
There's often not.
There's not necessarily. They're one dimensional.
One trick pony.
Right.
But what I got out of her from the beginning was that she was suppressing her emotions, and they call her out on it in this episode. I got that right away. Yes, she's a competent officer. Yes, she's good, but she's deliberately she's suppressing her emotions.
So it's the old trope for a woman to be as good as a man, she's got to be twice as good. As good. Yeah. So she's.
It's kind of weird when they went to revamp this, when they rejected it. They took her kind of personality trait that they built into that character and gave it to Spock.
Yeah. Yes, they did.
They took that concept and took it and amped it up over here and made Spock.
Gave it to a dirty man.
Yeah.
He's not a man. He's a Vulcan.
The ears. Suits are paramount.
The ears. It's all good.
You guys should riot.
It's all good. What guys? The guys aren't going to riot.
The suits are paramount. Those guys who did this.
Now
you should find them.
1/4 of you should riot. But that's just a thought I had. They took her kind of her character concept and made the Vulcan out of it. But so they're back on the planet, and the Talosians are like, okay,
it's time for welcome to your first illusion.
Yeah, it's time. Let's play with this guy.
So we need to make him want to defend and protect her to build emotion. So let's drop him back in Rigel 7 and put her there so that instead of defending Kelso
and then his crew,
you defend her.
Right.
And adrenaline breeds
connection.
Breeds a little bit more than connection. Breeds that funny feelings.
That love and feeling.
Okay. So he's there and he's looking at it. He goes, man, I'm back at Rigel 7. He goes, and he hears the roar of the beast and all this.
And they got the Taj Mahal off.
He's like, this is just like it was before, except for her.
And the princess comes running out.
And the princess outfit with the long blonde hairs and the curls like a little crown. She is set up to be one.
Yeah.
How these dirty men making the women an object.
Every you sound like you're unhappy about that, and I don't think that's the case.
How do you know? I might be unhappy because of the way they're treating these poor ladies in the show.
I know you well.
Although Roddenberry is trying to push as many women as he can.
I know you well.
So, and I'll tell you, Susan Oliver plays her, and she's kind of a legend I think there's a Netflix documentary on her about how she was one of the first women directors and everything. But man, she played the hell out of this. And so did Jeffrey Hunter. I mean, their scenes, the acting there is just way up there. And you see her, you see such a range with her. Yeah, from like this anger to like
frustration.
Oh yeah, and
fear,
then seduction. She does it all.
She does. She is the ooh-wee of the pilot, hands down.
The overall thing she brings to it for me is like she alternates between pleading with him, trying to manipulate him or seduce him, to
helping
him, but there's an overall desperation.
Yes.
And it takes him a long time to understand what her position is and what's at stake for her and why she's doing this. But she delivers. She
plays the fear of the punishment is like real.
Yes.
So if you think about selling that, what you have to sell the audience is that you have to deliver a line in a way, because she's trying to conceal it by not coming out and saying it. But she's like, they'll punish you. And the way that she says it, it's like, I remember as a kid going like, listen, I had a mom that hit, okay? And like punishment is different than getting yelled at. Yeah,
that's the thought I had. The beauty of the way it's delivered, it's open-ended, and you fill in the blank of what that is. When you're a little kid watching it, you think of the belt. Mm-hmm. When you're an adult watching, you're like, well, what is that? What is punishment? It's delivered in such a way as where it becomes ominous because they don't tell you what it is.
What's interesting, and we get to it after the the castle scene, is he begins to believe that she's not real.
Right, that she's a complete fabrication.
She's a complete fabrication, and that slowly gets dissuaded as their conversations go on.
But don't skip Olaf.
Oh no, we're gonna have fun with Olaf. So she gets him. He doesn't want to go with her.
Right.
But
that's the other great thing about it. Pike is never buying into this. He's like, I know you're playing with me, and I'm not gonna do it.
So the roar of the beast, and she runs off. And guess what? Hero Captain does.
He stands there.
No, he runs right after her. Right. Because ultimately, it's in him to what? Protect her and save her. Right. Whether he thinks whether he intellectually knows she's real or not real, intellectually believes she's not real, his instincts is to what? Protect her.
Right. But he's reluctant the whole way. He's like, this isn't real. There's nothing I really have to do here.
And I'll say something that's it's going to be controversial, but it's what I feel. It's like when Heath Ledger played the Joker, to me was he could go from emotion to emotion in a way that fit the character because of the way that he crafted the character, right? There's a great line. I can't even do it when I try, and I've studied it. But there's a line where in the interrogation scene, and the line is something along the lines like, don't talk like one of them you're not, even if you'd like to be, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And if I was going to say that line, I'd be like, don't talk like they do, you're not one of them, even if you would try to be, right? He has three separate emotions. The first is like, don't talk like them. It's almost like an anger.
Right.
Then he's like
scolding.
Don't talk like them. And then you're not, where he's like almost praising him. Right. And then he feels sorry for him, right, even if you'd like to be.
Or a little bit of disappointment.
Yeah, he delivers those three emotions in one line, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what Susan Oliver is doing throughout this entire performance. It's like her face is saying something else. Mm-hmm. And then when she's supposed to be dramatic because she knows they're going to torture her if she doesn't sell it.
Because they're watching.
And then she'll sell it. And then he tries to break through that and says, quit play acting. You tell me how to block them. And she's like, at one point she goes, about my headaches.
Yeah.
That's later on. So they're inside of the castle, and she runs off to a corner to hide. And he's like, what are you doing? What you hiding from? This is not real. Right. And she goes, they can make it real.
You will feel this.
And
you will feel it.
So when I was watching her, I was like, she's afraid of...
She knows the stakes.
She's afraid of the illusion.
Yes.
Because although you don't physically get hurt, You get the pain. And you know what came to mind? The Gom Jabbar in the box.
Yep.
For those of you men on track who love Dune, the new movie's coming out, and the box that induces pain doesn't hurt your flesh, but pain is pain.
It's mental.
And for those of you who have not gotten there in age yet, to have a nerve in your shoulder or nerve in your neck or nerve in your foot kick in.
The compressed L4 vertebrae.
And there is no damage, but there is massive pain. You are afraid of that pain.
Kidney stone.
Yeah, there's one. There's
you
one
are
for you.
afraid of that pain. See, young guys don't understand because their bodies are working perfectly. You get to a certain age, you can sleep wrong
young
and
guys-
wake up in serious pain.
Do young guys listen to Men on Track?
Her demographic's pretty wide.
But she's selling it because she's like, I don't want men. Come on.
No, that's where she is with this.
Yeah,
Like she
come
knows she's okay in this. She's supposed to be acting, right? In the illusion, she's supposed because she knows what's going on. She knows what's going on, and she like I did everything. She says at one point, I did everything you asked me to do. Okay,
Right.
but she'll break through that. Just like I said, Heath Ledger did with the character with the Joker that he created. The character that she created, this Vina. She's in the they're in the middle of being attacked, and she goes, you're gonna feel this.
Right.
Like you don't think it's real.
You perceive it. Therefore
You may
it
not.
is
You
real.
may not be. You may not really get killed in this illusion, but you're gonna wish you were dead.
You sure will.
Because you're gonna feel every minute of this.
If Olaf buries an axe in your
That's
chest,
right.
you won't be saying this is just a simulation.
That's right.
I Vina happens to be my favorite Star Trek femme fatale.
Really?
Yeah, she actually is.
Confessing now.
She actually is.
More than Marlena.
More than Marlena.
Marlena's mine.
I like this woman better than all of them.
Wait till Uhura finds out.
None of them, as far as acting, comes up to her.
No.
Uhura doesn't get. Uhura's never given the opportunity.
That's what I was going to say.
But for as far as what's actually produced, she is the best.
Vina's role in this episode is unique across the entire series because no other person outside of like Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, no other person in the series gets the opening to carry a part like this.
Oh, that's true.
None of the other female leads get this. She's in this episode almost the entire episode, every scene.
Yes.
And she's carrying the episode.
Oh yeah, she's definitely the number 2 actress or actor in this.
Well,
this scene
in the context of what Jim's bringing out, we don't know her now, but in those days she was this legendary actress. It's almost like they got her for the pilot, and she's carrying the pilot.
Right.
The other actors may not have been as well known, what have you. I know Jeffrey Hunter was somewhat known prior to this,
Right.
but they brought her in, and it was probably a selling point of like, hey, she's in this show.
We got Susan Oliver.
Yeah, we got Susan Oliver. She's going to carry this show.
Yeah.
But Olaf comes out, and I laughed about this because I remembered them having this huge guy with some kind of cheesy like fang effect, like fangs in his mouth. That's not it. The teeth are just horrible. Dude, this is just some big dude, and they might still be prosthetic teeth, but they gave this guy horrible choppers. So Olaf's running around, he's huge, and he's got bad teeth, and I'm almost like, this is the guy that these are the guys that beat them up on Rigel 7?
You know, the barbarian, my mind always flashes back to Galileo 7 and those beasts.
The big monsters.
Man.
I always think when I see that
Throwing spears at you as big as telephone poles.
Mm-hmm.
I think of
One of my
those
favorites.
guys.
But Olaf shows up, and Olaf is big. Olaf is huge. And Pike is still like, I'm not doing this.
Pike says this is only a dream.
I'm not doing this. And she's like, if you don't fight him, you get an axe in your chest.
Yeah, Pike says if you can tell my jailers I'm not playing along with this. And she goes, hey, man, this is realer than you think.
Right.
This pain is real. You're going to feel it.
Right. You'll experience this whether you play or not.
If he buried an axe in your chest, you're gonna be screaming.
Right.
Yeah.
So eventually Pike is forced to fight Olaf. Very reluctantly, though. He's got one point where he can stick a spear in him, and he doesn't.
So she's trying to explain it to him. In her expressiveness, she hits something and makes a sound.
She did that on purpose.
I don't think so. I think literally she's expressing to him because she wants him to attack him from the back.
Yeah.
Catch him unaware.
Right.
And Pike's like, no, I'm spectering another gun, man. I'm not playing along with this. I'm not going down there. I'm not taking the rabbit hole. I'm not going for the okie doke.
Uh-huh.
And she makes a noise, and here comes Brutox to come put something on him. It's man, I really love this pilot. I wish we had Star Trek made up of this. This big dude comes out, plus he's got the hi hat.
He's just like a Mongol or something. Or some almost like.
Remember Sasquatch from $6 Million Man?
Yeah.
Pretty similar.
Yeah.
Pretty similar.
They probably put this guy in a bear suit for the Galileo 7.
They probably did. And those are false teeth.
Yeah. Ooh, those choppers are horrible. I don't want to be bit. Stab me, but don't bite me. So the fight ensues. Pike eventually takes him out with a well-placed gladius to the kidneys. Thrown, no less.
It's a good fight. You get the fight music.
Yeah. The OG fight music.
And the girls standing in the background as Pike tries to defend him.
Well, you do have they don't make her completely helpless damsel. She takes her shot. She takes her shot at fighting back when
she's
Olaf
up there with a
comes
mason chain swinging around.
Yeah. Olaf disarms her and grabs her, and that's when Pike buries the gladius, but
oh yeah, she was about to get her up and coming.
yeah, a full simulation.
Olaf was going.
It was a full simulation. Yeah. Meanwhile, back upstairs, the crew has beamed down the cannon. So the cannon happens.
Or does it?
Well, we know.
Makes a lot of noise.
I'm still enjoying the fight, man.
Well, look,
Makes
man.
a lot of noise.
And then Pike does eventually get, because Pike refuses to let it go, Pike does eventually get Vina to kind of explain to him what's going on, how these guys have.
Well, after the fight, they have a conversation, and she's trying to explain to him
They've become addicted to sensory input.
Their problem, and he still doesn't believe she's real.
Right.
And she's trying to talk to him, and he doesn't want to listen at all.
And not for a bad reason. I mean, he at this point, what does he feel he can believe in? Because most of it is illusions.
Right. He's just assuming everything he's seeing, period, is fake.
Right.
And that they're to all designed to manipulate him into doing whatever they want him to do.
But you have two edges to this. He's trying to figure it out, which he should.
Right.
And she's afraid of the ramifications of him trying to figure it out.
And of helping him figure it out.
Because it plays bad against both of them.
Right.
Both of them. Because he hasn't experienced how bad it could be yet.
And she's been living through it for years.
And she's been living through it for years.
Right.
Well, I think her job is, and the Talosians have been pretty clear with her, is that you need to keep him busy falling in love with you and doing all this other stuff because we don't want him figuring this out. Like, that was her whole thing.
Well, their end game is for them to mate and make more humans.
Right. But she's trying to just get him to go along with this, but she knows that she's going to have to answer some questions. And when she does, you can tell that she knows that she's not supposed to be answering these questions.
Right. So then it switches to the Starship cannon.
Shit.
The Starship cannon. And they set it on a timer, and everybody runs away.
They hide behind a rock and put on ski goggles.
Protective goggles.
Yeah.
Like a nuke test.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, man, the fireworks ensues.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but you're looking at that, and it's like, that's powerful. That's powerful. That actually conveyed a greater sense of power than the scenes and later in the show when they did firing from orbit. You get a greater sense of destructive power out of that cannon scene than the phasers from orbit.
Well, they use a lot of special effects, a lot of light, different color lights.
Yeah. It's
as the radiation comes off of it.
right. So the crux of it at this point is Pike's trying to get her to talk about how this thing works. How do you fight them? What do you do? And she's very reluctantly kind of like, hey, there's only so much I can tell you. You gotta meet me halfway.
Well, she actually says, if I tell you, you have to pick a dream, a fantasy, and let me live it with you.
Right.
She's trying to get something.
That's right. Yeah.
For giving something.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you some answers, but then you got to give me a fantasy.
And Pike does her dirty.
Yeah, he does.
He takes the information. He goes, I don't have to keep my agreement with you. You're an illusion.
You're not real.
Oh, that's bull.
Yeah.
But it's logical.
Right. Well, he doesn't believe. And then she tells him, I'm as real as you are. And she finally.
After the fact, but when he initially met her and started talking about it, she said she wasn't. She said she wasn't. So that set him on that path. And now
I don't think she said she wasn't real. But it is a thing of he doesn't believe it. And she finally tells him her actual or close to her actual backstory.
Well, at this point, he's trying to talk to her. And she hands up this information, and then they start to punish her.
Right, and she disappears. And that's when the Talosian comes out and tells him the backstory. Tells him what's going on.
And gives him a little punishment.
Oh, yeah. No, that punishment comes later.
No, I thought it was.
That's pretty much.
With the goblet?
No, not the goblet.
No.
Well, yeah. Well, the goblet is what led to the punishment.
Okay.
Because it shows him in the fire.
As a child, the goblet was bad.
You know what really sold that? You know what really sells the fire scene for me? The molten liquid dripping from his arms. That's what takes that over the top, and it's like that's pain.
I thought it was hell.
Yes, because they say it's from your fantasy or
a childhood
story.
Childhood story.
Yeah, so I thought the same thing, but oh my God, they plopped him in hell. They plopped him in hell. Yeah. And what difference is hell is a place of eternal fire where you don't burn up, right?
Right.
Tell me this is PG-13. This is PG-13 easy. It's almost R-rated.
It's close to R.
Yeah. For primetime television in 1965, this is hardcore.
Oh, it's hardcore.
The themes.
You throw your main character in hell.
Well, not even
and
that.
Watch him rise. Oh,
the themes.
And you know what? It's not like a quick little 1 second sort of like.
No, it's a
This
long
was a
scene.
bad dream I woke up from. He's like,
Kirk. None of the characters in the original Star Trek show that we enjoy suffered like Pike suffered here in the
and we know Pike's future. This is nothing. What does he get those delta waves? And he's a Pop-Tart after that.
Pike effectively gets this at some point in time.
Oh my God! So Vina's trying to explain to him and what happened to the Talosians and how they got like this.
All right. They had a war.
They
developed their minds.
They devastated their own planet.
Lost the use of their technology.
And then
and all they had was sensory input, living other people's memories.
Video games.
Essentially. Yeah.
And then the head Talosian comes in and Vina gets punished.
Punished. He will be punished.
And then they tell him to take the drink and he gets his. And then picnic. Nice little picnic. Starship. Mojave, modern Mojave.
Can you imagine watching someone being tortured? There's nothing you can do and then they just vanish in front of you?
Booty heads had it down.
Oh man,
yeah, it was rough.
And Pike's got that look like, man, if I lay my hands on you, you are done. Now, you're right. The next scene is him going in the glass of drink. Protein drink.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then Pike gets obstinate about,
I'm not doing it.
I'm not part of this.
And they tell him,
I'll starve myself to death.
They tell him you fail to consider the alternative.
Mm-hmm.
So we can hurt you.
And we will.
And that's when Pike gets his first taste of the punish.
Yeah.
The punish.
And like the gum Jabbar, we can do it again and again and again and again.
Nonstop.
It's called conditioning. She says they own me at one point.
Oh,
I think she
yeah.
says.
Because she said you can't resist them.
Not for long.
They'll beat you down and beat you down. You just
For
get,
years, she says. They come at you for years.
All right. They've had her. She's thoroughly broken by the time Pike shows up.
oh yeah.
She's had 18 years in the ag booth.
And can you imagine what they did to her when, in the absence of anybody for her to play off of, they're just taking her through. They're just taking her through all this. You know, whatever they cook up, whatever they decide to do to her, taking her through her memories and stuff.
Look, it just keeps going on and on and on.
Taking her through her memories and stuff. So
I have to say, they are the worst enemy that has ever been seen in a Star Trek episode. They do the most harm than anybody in any episode you could think about.
the gamesters of Triskelion are a shadow of this.
Yeah.
They're nothing compared to what. It's like, because Pike even says it at the end. He goes, not even an apology for what you did? You put me through hell. Literally. You literally sent me to hell to burn. I was burning alive in hell. And they're like, sorry.
And they're basically just kind of like, it's what we do.
Yeah, they didn't even say they're sorry. They're like, we're just looking for people to repopulate the planet. It's not you. So have a good day.
Hey, look, we're in the market for some slaves, and it's a means to an end. It's what we're trying to do. But
It's your booty head.
Yeah.
they break them. And then they go into the
Picnic.
The picnic. He's back home on Earth.
Well, he gets so mad that he
Briefly, Luke pushes
he
them out.
attacks the barrier, and it startles the Talosian. So he understands there's a limit that they can't read his mind.
Right.
if he has violent thoughts, primitive thoughts,
Right.
they're not able to read those primitive thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But as he says, or as she says, he can't maintain it.
Right. So they drop him into the picnic scene, and she's back to, hey, let's just play this out. She's calling him.
She rolls right into the role.
She calls him darling, and
I'm wifey. She
Wifey.
rolls right
Yeah. He says, that's Mojave. That's where I was born. She goes, well, you're saying that like your wife wouldn't know that.
Yeah. Ha, ha, ha.
And she's like, let's stop talking about those silly things. You know how it gives me my headaches.
Yeah, that's what's so great in this scene. He refuses to play along and just be happy for a minute. And she's looking at him like, would you please just do this so they don't hurt me?
Right.
That's it.
Would you please just do this for a minute so they don't hurt me?
That's exactly it. So think about it. You're in a situation that the person you thought was not real then screamed out. And after a point, you have to accept that they're real.
Right.
To a degree, and they're pleading with you, just go along so I don't get punished.
And he still won't do it. But he does begin to shift. This is where he accepts that she is real, because he begins to have some empathy for her.
Well, he tells her, he goes, if they can read my mind, they know that I was attracted to you.
Right.
And I think she looks at him as like, attraction is fine, but that's not what we're talking about here.
Right.
You need to understand the scope of this.
This is compliance to avoid.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We need to comply right now.
That's right.
Because they go drop me back in the ag booth. And you too, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still just kind of like, well, no, we got to figure this out. And she's like, dude. She's like, dude. Blanket, food, horse. Get with the program.
Sugar cubes in your pocket.
Coffee in the mug.
Coffee in the mug,
in the thermos. I mean, on the horse.
You can be home. You could be home on Earth enjoying life.
Well, he is home. He's home right now in his mind, and he's got a wife picked out for him, and she's and everything's everything, and she's trying to get him not to ruin it.
Right, because she doesn't want to go back to whatever hell they got for her.
Well, just take the illusion away for her. But
another thing I picked up on though is when Pike's talking through it, Did you catch that he quotes what the doctor said to him in his quarters?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So
he's like, you got to live your life.
The scenarios that he had a problem with the doctor are played out in the scenarios dealing with the Talosians. That's what gives him his closure about him being the captain.
Right.
He has to face those issues.
Being presented these alternative lives and these illusions makes him realize I can't be anywhere else.
I'll tell you, you know what it is? This scene was very well done, but the end of the scene is one of the most, I don't know how to say it, like provocative things that I can remember seeing as a young kid, but now appreciate. Because what she says to them at the end, she goes, we're going about this all wrong. Because you're a starship captain and you're prim and you're proper. And this fantasy to you is just another common thing. I know what your real medicine is.
I know what you
I know what you really want.
We're gonna peel loose. We're gonna peel loose the layers.
And he is.
He's afraid.
He is.
No,
he's terrified.
He is Mac Daddy pimp. In the next scene, he is sitting there with these lecherous guys. And he's got this.
He's an Orion. He's an Orion trader.
He's an Orion trader in slave women that are there for eroticism.
Dressed up like Aladdin.
The Starfleet guy goes, you know what? You know what's great about them? He goes, they actually like when you take advantage of them. Like,
and that's
the dark side that she taps into. She goes, you know what? You don't want your horse tango and all this other stuff. You want
Green Alliance.
You want Green Alliance slave women that you're going to be trading in.
You want the fantasy,
dark side.
You want the fantasy that you can't have.
That's right.
And again, how edgy is this for 1965? This dude's
how
like,
edgy is it for now?
It would be actually.
The whole point is that we desire things that we don't. We want things that we don't want.
There are things we entertain in our mind that we would never act upon.
That's right. Thank you. That's the best way of saying it. There's things in our mind that we entertain in our mind that we would never act upon. And they are now, she's like, I can give you the opportunity to act upon it, and ain't nobody gonna get hurt.
No consequences.
Nobody gonna get hurt.
You could see he starts to get this fear.
That's what I'm saying. She's about to lay bare.
Yeah. Because he's a Starfleet officer. The threats of violence don't faze him. The honey trap doesn't faze him.
No.
But when they go,
when the freaks come out, the freaks come out at night.
When they go,
the freaks come out.
When they go. Okay, well let's talk about what you think about in your private moments. Let's talk about that. And he's like, uh-oh. He's like, wait a minute. Not the Orion slave girl. You know. That Eddie Murphy.
And she goes through this. She goes through this whole, just spectrum of emotions in the scene. Where at first she's like, honey, my head aches. Shut up. And then she's pleading with him and stuff. And then all of a sudden she gets to this point. And she goes, I know what's going on in that dirty little mind of yours.
Yeah, but before she gets there, she makes a point. It's not only about you.
It's about her too.
She's letting him know she's real. They read in my mind what type of man I want, and they found you.
You, right.
You are my ideal. I can't but love you.
Right.
And they're trying to get us to build something together, but you're fighting it. And everything we're presenting to you is not what you want. You want some night action.
But think about this when you talk about this, how cerebral the episode is.
Well, that's not really what he wants.
What she's saying to him is, I already love you, and what you're doing is going to hurt you and hurt me.
Right. Tapping into that instinct to protect is like, what are you doing?
Watch when she starts to figure this out, and you can see his face. Like,
when I was a kid in that scene, for some reason I had a disconnect and I didn't realize she was the slave girl.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought they switched to a
time.
different girl.
The first time.
No, I knew
Yeah.
it. I knew it.
I got lost. I thought they completely flipped the script and gave him a whole nother thing.
These dudes are worse than the Triskelion guys. These guys are watching TV just josing on.
Because remember, her thing.
I wonder what the rating was.
Her thing is, you don't want a nice wife that's make a picnic basket for you and all this other stuff. That's not what you want.
No,
you don't want somebody that's gonna just love you and all this other stuff. You want to own beings. You want to own people.
You want to own beings.
Sex slaves. Yeah.
She says your strongest dreams are the things you can't have.
That's right.
So what is one of the first type of dreams a child has, and not sexual? Flying.
Right.
The ability to fly.
Yeah. You imagine impossible things.
You imagine what you cannot have.
Impossible things.
And cannot do. And she goes, those are your strongest dreams. And he starts to go, hold on, back up, back up. Back up. Let's not go down this road. Yeah. And the booty guys go, he's starting to think about it. Let's rock on.
Mm-hmm. But you watch her. I think if I remember right. See, look at her.
Yeah.
Now he starts to like.
And he's sitting there like, oh no, oh. Yeah, he's having a hard time.
And a wave of the booty hand
for the first time.
Look at that guy, man. He's
lecherous,
man. He's like.
But do you catch that? Do you catch the things that the guy and the Starfleet officer with him are saying?
Oh, yeah.
And it's all feeding into. It's all feeding into. Take the poison. Go ahead.
What's so funny? The actors that are that are depicted to be these guys there are the worst looking guys.
Oh, sleaze. He's in the back alley.
They're scum. Yeah. Even though one of them is clearly a Starfleet officer in his dress uniform. Yeah. But the fact that he's even there like that is like, hold on, dude.
You got a nice place here, Pike.
He's like, hold on, dude. Is this how Starfleet officers roll on their downtime? It's like, what is this? What they doing? You know, it's not good. But he fights it off one more time. He gets up and gets out of there.
Barely. He runs out of there like a little boy.
Oh my goodness!
He's like a little boy. He's like, no, I don't want this. Look at these guys.
I do, but I don't.
You got a nice place here, Pike.
Yeah,
I'm running out of power.
Yeah.
But so he runs out. She's there, and she's just basically like, what is it gonna take, man? There's no getting out of this. And he gets into, no matter what they do, it's still a cage. Mm-hmm. And I thought of this, the idea of the gilded cage. You can make it nice and you're still trapped.
But we had this conversation before. It's based upon your mind.
Right.
It is based upon your mind because none of us are truly free. You can't just go where you want to go and do what you want to do. There's limitations on us all.
Consequences.
We all accept a certain amount of
control. Right. We
all accept a certain
amount. Anyone with a mortgage knows that. What does mortgage mean? Death. It's like you have debt until you die, Yeah.
I mean, it's accepting it. It's the overarching thing of society. Everybody accepts a certain amount of control so we don't have chaos. Mm. And for you as an individual, you lock yourself in more and more as you mature and you get a mortgage and then you got to do this and you got to do that. And then you have children and you got to do for them and you got to do that. And the more you do,
it's a cage that you have built.
Right.
See, there's one thing, there's a difference between a cage I make around myself and a cage somebody puts me in. Now, psychologically, or in reality, there is no difference. A cage is a cage.
Wow.
Psychologically, there is a difference because this is a cage I've made.
Right.
And this is a cage I'm forced into.
And when you didn't choose it, it doesn't matter what it is.
But they're giving him the opportunity to choose his cage.
But he knows it's not real, and he knows at the end of the day he's still imprisoned. And also the fact that he calls it out as a menagerie, and when they redo the episode and go back to it, and they call that episode the menagerie, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so do I.
There's a line in Lord of the Rings that Éowyn is given, but it's actually Faramir that says it, and it's along the lines of, what do you fear? And the line was a cage to stay behind bars until use and old age accept them, and all chance of doing great deeds is gone beyond recall or desire.
I thought that was always her line.
No, Faramir said that. Yeah.
It's, and it kind of gets into things that happen today. Do you accept freedom? Do you claim, there's a saying that says, I prefer dangerous freedom.
No, and I think
right.
it's a natural thing as you go through life, because this idea, it says, until use and old age accept them. There are things that I always wanted to climb Everest. I mean, when I was a kid, or go to the moon or step foot on the moon and everything like that. And it's like, you get to a certain point and you realize, man, I can't do that.
Right.
And it's not because I still don't desire it, but I know what my physical limitations are. And it's like, well, what would it take to become an astronaut? Well, you have to become an engineer first, and a pilot, and all the rest of these things. And it's like, if you're in your 40s or 50s or what, well, you can't even get in the military after 32 or something.
Yeah, something like that, 35.
And special services, FBI, CIA. If you want to be a spy, you can't start doing it when you're 50.
No, you got to start.
60.
You got to start at least when you're 20.
Yeah. So it's like use and old age, and that says, and all chance of doing great deeds is gone beyond recall or desire. And then that's the last part of it.
Right. You no longer have the desire.
Don't have the desire.
You're like, screw that.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to race F1 cars, but what I need to do to build up my neck and gain, lose 100 pounds and, do all the rest of the stuff. It's like, I'd rather watch it, than do it. So,
But in this case, they're offering him safety, comfort, and ostensibly to live any kind of life he wants.
But I'll tell you, there's a great line.
He prefers to be
free. There's a great line that he throws at her, because she's like, look, let's get our freak on, start having these babies. You'll get used to it. We'll go forward. And he goes, do you think the headaches will stop for your children?
Right.
Like, that was a power. See, once again, that's a line that's not necessary. It's not necessary. It's not a necessary line to put in this as far as getting a show sold. But what was necessary was for him to say to her, if you're saying I should just do this for you, then who are you doing it for?
Right.
Because the children that we have will be tortured like you will.
Yeah.
They were slaves. They'll be slaves too.
When he said that, I didn't take it like you just said it.
That's how I took it.
But I get it now. I understand that it's because I took her headaches as just being feigned, and I took it as he was just playing.
No, she was alluding to the torture.
No, I just took it. He was just playing along and said, "Well, don't you think your kids have headaches too?" But I get it now. That she's alluding to the torture, and he's like, your children will be tortured as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, 100%.
And that's not that type of writing, that level. Show me that now. Show it to me now.
It doesn't exist now.
Show it to me show it to me in movies.
They don't do that now because they think the audience is too dumb.
I know you haven't seen it, and it's fine. Whatever. Controversial. Sooner or later, you get in trouble for no matter what you say. But Endgame. Okay, Tony Stark. What was the big thing with Tony Stark? Tony Stark is going to snap the gauntlet and die. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What was going to happen to his daughter? Nothing. She's going to get cheeseburgers at the end of the movie.
Right after the funeral.
Right. If what you said was, when you die, do you know what's going to happen to your daughter? Oh, no, we can't write it that way. And that's exactly what this writing is. In 1965 is saying.
It's consequences.
Do you know what the consequences are? You want to get through this now because of how much you've been tortured, and you want me to go along with it, okay? But we're going to have children, and those children are going to be tortured. Now, what do you want to do?
Right.
And even though that's 55 years ago.
Right.
It's still way deeper and way wider than what you see now.
As we've gone through it, I've even wondered if, outside of them deciding it was too cerebral, I wondered if they looked at this and said,
it's too deep.
It's not deep as the cerebral in my mind. I think they might have even looked at this pilot and said, there's going to be issues with censors on this. This is too strong for television in 1965. I wonder. I wonder if that was one of the considerations.
If you haven't seen it, the two of you, it comes around. It's on Amazon. I think it's on Amazon Prime now. There's a documentary called Milius, John Milius.
I know who Milius is.
You know who he is. He wrote Apocalypse Now. He wrote a lot of the Dirty Harry movies, Red Dawn.
Better movies, yeah.
He wrote all the monologues for Sean Connery and Red October and all this other stuff.
Right.
So he was famous because he pulled a gun on a studio executive and punched his instructor at UCLA in the face for things and everything. But this was a great story, and I think that this may shine some light on what we think the executives might have been doing or saying or thinking during this pilot. He says he came in and there was a studio executive, and they would sit him down and they would go, okay, pitch a movie. So he pitches this movie, and studio executive looks at him after the pitch and is like, nah, that's not a good story. That's nothing that would be interested in doing. And the studio executive got up and walked out. And Milius looked at the guy that was sitting next to him, and he goes, "Well, I guess not everybody likes Hamlet."
Yeah,
like he told Hamlet.
He pitched Hamlet.
And it's a terrible story. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe we're giving too much credit to the studio execs here, and what they thought about it. But I think it was you had to think to enjoy this entertainment.
Yeah.
You couldn't just you can't just sit there and watch it, because we even admit that there are times when there's scenes where we just look at it and we just say, hey, I thought this was about this. You have to take a step back and you have to actually think about what's being said.
Yeah,
and how can you do that with 2-second edits and 1-second edits? And
like the first time we saw this episode when we were kids, 90% of us went over our heads. We knew he fought the big guy. We knew there was a green woman and a couple other things, and we knew the brain guys were holding him hostage, but all this intricate stuff, all this byplay, all this story that we're pulling out of here, all this meat, we didn't get this when we were kids.
It is definitely high fiction.
Yeah,
it is definitely high fiction. It is very cerebral. It is very good. Whether or not 1960 TV could have took it is another thing. We would have loved to have seen it.
Right.
But I don't think it would have survived. The suits might have been right.
Well, they probably were, because the original series barely survived.
As much as we hate the suits, they were probably right.
In this case, probably.
This is fantastic material. It is great to have and look over, but it might have been too much for 1965 TV.
Yeah, I think I agree with that a lot, because I think one of these this episode as a movie is something that you could get behind,
sink your teeth into it.
But if you were a network executive and they said, we're going to have 22 of these episodes, that's
a season.
I think that's the scary part.
Considering you got Father Knows Best, you got all this wholesome stuff, and you're going to take our main character and you're going to drag him to the seediest place in the universe and have him not fantasize, but
I'm sure there were other more adult shows at the time, but
not to this.
This comes off. I don't know. This comes off pretty rough in the context.
An actual filmed scene of a guy burning alive in hell.
Yeah, well,
this is
It's pretty rough.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough.
And a gyrating green slave woman.
Yeah,
it's pretty rough.
Yeah,
not counting the whole issue about slaves.
I can remember as a kid just that dancing scene with her. Like, I knew what it was about.
That made you.
I was a kid.
It made you feel something.
Yeah. It didn't make you feel like a kid. Yeah. It made you feel something different.
Took your first step into a larger world.
I just remember him running away from that. And I was going like,
ain't no way I run.
No. Why? What? To get back to your ship? Like, I didn't understand.
I remember in the ending credits, the Star Trek ending credits, the Desilu credits, they stop on.
She's still there.
They stop on the green woman's face.
Yeah.
And I remember being a kid like, yeah. When the credits roll, I'm gonna see the green woman. That was there. But
and even through that makeup and everything, the way that she was looking at him goes back to that. The initial scenes on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah, the intensity.
There was a hunger there.
The intensity. Yes.
She's hungry for him.
Oh, without a doubt.
So, in the while this is going on, the crew of the Enterprise gets the underground coordinates, and once again, a well-equipped landing party is going to attempt to beam down and effect a rescue. But when they pull the switch, only number one,
only the females beam
and
down.
Yeoman. What's the yeoman's name? Do they ever say? They do say, and I can't think of it. The yeoman and number one are the only ones who are allowed to beam down. And Vina is immediately like just livid because she realizes that she's been
you know what I just realized?
Benched.
You know, I just realized, and I know maybe it's uncomfortable to stay too much time on this, but he goes back into his cell, and she comes in as the green woman, and she smiles at him, and then they cut the scene. And then when the two women show up that beam up, she goes, "It's too late. He's already chosen me." I think
they got busy.
I think there was some busyness going on now. Because she was smiling and he wasn't saying, "Get out of here."
Well, they weren't in the cell when she was the Orion slave girl, but they beamed them back. The dream ends, or the illusion is ended, and they are back in the cell when. And
she's still the green woman
when the crew beams down.
No, she isn't.
Yeah, she is. He goes in. He runs through that door, and he's in the cell.
That's in a rock carved hallway.
It's his cell. And then when he turns around, she's standing there holding the torch.
Oh yeah. I know what Jim's saying.
That's that hallway.
It's a cell.
It's a cutaway.
It's a cutaway
because
there's no way for him to go back.
They close it off because the music stops. That's how you know they've closed it off.
There's no way for him to go back. Right. So he's saying they're in a secluded area, and it's the green woman. And when the two women beam up, she goes, "He's already chosen me." Well, she's mad that they're there.
Right.
But he goes, "It doesn't matter. He's already chosen me."
It's possible.
Palpatine is alluding with his evil self that some adult action took place.
Absolutely, 100%.
You go by how they handled that in old films. Yeah.
The only thing was missing was a bell ringing and a train going in a tunnel.
No,
she was holding a torch for him.
The thing was missing. The thing would have been clinching if one of the two would have been smoking a cigarette.
I think he was putting one out as the two women beamed in.
So what happens? The number
one beam down,
and the first thing Pike does is take their phasers.
Right.
Give me your weapon.
He's like, "Let's get out of here."
Now Venus. She's cheese. She's upset.
She's mad. Yeah,
because we just went from a him and her show to a
crowd,
chorus line,
crowd,
to a harem,
crowd,
to a harem fantasy,
crowd,
a harem fantasy,
to multiple women in the vicinity,
which is generally, according to manga, a harem fantasy.
And then the booty head comes in and says,
I try
number one
try to keep us from getting banned
superior and has a higher intellect. And although it appears as though she is emotionally bereft, she often has fantasies of you."
That's terrible.
So this is the level of character development that's given, unlike other shows where you generally get a single dimensional character.
Right.
What number one has been portraying is not who she really is.
She got a thing for the captain.
And there's an undercurrent, just like Pike has an undercurrent, and Bootyhead is bringing everybody's undercurrent to the surface.
Because he's enjoying.
Because that's what bootyheads do.
Because he's enjoying his addiction.
That's what bootyheads do. And number one, she's got a deep fantasy about her captain.
Well, they go to the yeoman too, and yeoman,
although she thought.
She sees him as unattainable.
She had no chance. Now she sees that there is a chance for her as well.
That's so messed up because they're basically saying, in this moment of peril, the yeoman has looked around and went, "Oh, it's three of us? I'm back in the game." on the ship, she's like, "Nah, I can't make it happen."
No way. And on the ship, she thinks, "No way I can beat number one."
Not even that.
No way I can get past.
Well, what does rank mean? What's rank gonna mean down there after a year or two?
It may not even be just number one, but on that ship, with however many girls, she's like, "I can't make it happen." But she's down here now. She's like, Old lady.
I got
and the blonde. Old lady and the blonde.
I got a 1 in 3 chance.
I'm back in the game. I can make it happen.
I can make some moves and bring it to pass.
And it's so horrible because dude
Booty heads reveal it all.
Dude just puts it out there. He's like, oh yeah. This is what's going on.
But Pike's got his rage on.
Oh yeah, the girls are trying to deflect that.
No.
And Pike's like, I ain't dealing with that.
No.
I'm filling my mind with hate. I'm filling my mind with hate. And he drops the guns right in front of the access door.
Yeah.
I'm filling my mind with hate because when I get my hands on him, there's gonna be blood tonight.
Yeah, he's like, I'm imagining horrible, brutal murder.
And he even says, "What color's your blood?"
They as far as they can tell, the phasers and communicators are not working, which may or may not be the case. And they're just sitting there, and Pike's like, forget all that nonsense. Think hate. Feel your hate flowing through you.
The dark side of the force.
he's going for a red saber, but then they're all sitting there, and you don't know how long they leave them sitting.
Well, let's just say they cut to a very tired Pike. And the ladies are asleep.
Oh, now Palpatine's running with it.
I'm just saying.
So he looks like he's asleep too, but we know he's not. The door opens.
He's just finishing 3 cigarettes.
The door opens and the booty head's trying to get
grab the phasers.
Trying to grab the phasers, and Pike grabs him and yanks him into the room and commences to throttling him.
Yeah. So usually we don't do this, but I'm going to call this one out. So why would the chief booty head be retrieving? It seems like a high risk thing.
Well, it shouldn't be the chief booty head.
Yeah.
It should be a low level booty head.
Should have been a young one.
Yeah.
There's only 4 of them.
No, there's 5.
Okay, 5.
There was 1 in the hall and 4 that came out of the elevator. There's 5 that we've seen. We don't know how many booty heads are left alive.
When I thought about it, they kept talking about, this is our extinction. I think it
could be down to 5.
They never take any time in the narrative to give you the idea that there's a lot of them. I think it's just them.
No, I think it's more because I think they wanted to breed humans to fix everything so that they could survive longer. So I think there's still a chance.
Well, they say that their lifespan is much
way longer.
So I think you're right. They wanted the humans to terraform, but I think they were thinking.
I think it's 5 of them.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a lot of them.
Oh, okay,
but
neither here nor there.
Maybe there's hundreds of booty heads watching the emotional display.
So he pulls in the booty head. He starts.
Now you got me saying it.
He starts to throttle the Talosian.
He's choking him out.
And the Talosian turns into the monkey ape creature,
the space monkey.
And he's like, "Well, you can keep this pretending up, but I'm
gonna
break your neck.
I'm gonna break your neck, right?
You might scratch me and it might hurt like HELL, but I'm gonna squeeze and I'm gonna pop your little thin neck because no matter how big you think you make it look, it's only big.
You know what that reminded me of? So, about getting your geek on or your nerd on or whatever. So, remember when Baron and Luthien were fighting Sauron, and the wolf.
Oh, yeah,
Huan grabs Sauron by the neck, and Sauron starts changing forms, and it's like, doesn't matter, I'm not letting go.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a segment out of the Silmarillion. For those of you who are Tolkien fans or Lord of the Ring fans, you have to read the Silmarillion to see the battle between Luthien Tunuviel and Sauron.
Come back from Middle Earth. Back on the ship.
Oh, I'm back on the ship. Now he's got booty head by the neck.
He's got red monkey by the neck.
Yeah, red monkey by the neck. And he goes, look, man, you can make all these illusions you want. You need to stop or I'm gonna break your neck. And the guy stops.
And that's where Vina goes, listen, don't be so hard on them. They don't mean to be cruel.
They don't mean to be evil.
Right, yeah, evil. Like she's trying to get him to understand, but at this point he's like, look, boop, I'm going to shoot a phaser. And I don't see nothing now. I'm going to put it up to your head and pull the trigger. So you better show me what I think I need to see. And then you see that there's
not what I think, you better show me what I know is there. Because I think you're hiding from me what the phaser did.
What bothered me about that scene is number one's holding the dude. And it's like, if you yank the trigger on that thing, you not just go hit him.
But he yanks the trigger and he turns it up and he turns it all the way up and he goes, nah, there should be a hole there. And you better show me this hole or I'm going to blast you.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a hole in your head.
And number 1 too.
So the hole appears, and then they escape by the hole. Even Vina goes out with them, and then they make their way
to the surface,
unmolested to the surface, and things change.
And we've skipped over what's happening on the Enterprise during all of this.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
They lose power
when he has the Talosian by the neck.
He threatens the ship,
and he goes, "Look, I can destroy your ship." And
right.
the ship has lost power. They lost control.
Right. And their library computer has been raided.
And they're right. The Talosians are downloading all the information.
But don't forget, there's a couple of the Easter eggs in there. First thing, Spock comes out and says, "Give me the intercraft PA," or whatever he says, and he goes, "Listen, we're in over our heads. We're getting the heck out of here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're bugging out.
We're gonna bug out." So as soon as they hit the accelerator,
Captain Screwed, we gotta go.
Yeah, they hit the accelerator. Nothing happens. And what does Spock say? He says, "Use the emergency rockets."
Yeah.
Emergency
no
rockets to blast out of orbit with.
And they're like, nothing's working.
Nothing's working.
Spock's like, we waited too long. We're screwed.
That's right.
Yeah.
We waited too long. We're doomed.
And then Pike says to him, he goes, I'm gonna bet on your intelligence that you wouldn't just destroy a ship like that.
Arbitrarily, right?
Yeah.
Kill without reason.
Yeah.
And that's when he shoots the phaser and then threatens the guy's head.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So they get outside.
Because Pike's like, I, on the other hand, have
Right.
good
I'm a
reason.
barbarian.
He said, I have good reason to smoke you.
So they get outside and it shifts again.
Mm-hmm.
Pike is no longer in control, and the Talosian is acting like this is all according to plan.
That's right. We got you on the surface finally, like we needed to.
So commence to repopulating. Pick your girl,
and you sort of lost. You're like, well, hold on. I thought Pike was in control. He was never in control. It looked like he was in control,
right?
But it all was flowing according to Talosian plan.
Right. Well, they just reworked the plans. Like we'll work it this way. We'll still get you.
But number 1 decides to change things up.
Yeah, she decides to suicide.
Number 1's like, I got something for you. Phaser on overload.
She goes, if I can't have Pike, can't nobody have Pike.
I think she's thinking.
She's
I think
thinking
she's
if I
thinking
can't
nobody's
have,
gonna have me.
No, she's thinking if I can't have Pike, can't nobody have Pike.
I think she's
That's
thinking
an average
nobody's
woman
gonna
thing. I'm taking everybody down.
And the Talosians go, "What you doing, girl?" and he's like, "Look, this phaser's on overload. It's gonna make a crater here. And just to let you know how you mean I am, you can go ahead and go get in your elevator and go in your underground bunker." And that's where Vina goes, "If it's that important,
I'll stay.
I'm gonna stay with you because I want to be with humans."
And the Talosians
She
like,
don't want to be with humans. She want to be with Pike.
And the Talosians like, so this is what human crazy looks like, huh?
That's right.
So then the two more booty hits come up and they go, we downloaded their ship's information and these guys are all nut jobs.
Well, these guys have an unnatural desire to be free.
That's right. That's right.
He said they are
Because I'm from America. In America, we're free.
Yes.
Telling you.
Yes.
Until
Don't tread on me.
Well,
don't tread on me.
Don't tread on me.
That's why I'm a gun carrying country. I believe in my freedom.
my phaser's on overload. I'm gonna be free.
My Glock is ready and loaded.
She was like, you guys don't like captivity even if it's pleasant.
Nope. Gilded cage.
Not all of us, but some of us.
Too many of us will roll over and stay in the cage. But.
Too many of us already have.
True.
So then she goes,
Ergo, the Big V.
He goes, well, we can't use you. So, and doesn't even say sorry. He goes, I can't use you.
He's like, you guys
You're not gonna work.
You guys just will not comply. So
He's
we gotta
like,
get
number
some
one,
so you're able
shut
to
the
go.
phaser down. Number 1, and how about an apology?
Yeah, he goes, man,
like,
I don't even get a kiss.
He's like, look, we're gonna go extinct behind this, so no apology to you.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna die. Thank you.
And then Pike's like, can we cooperate? Can we work together? Can we work something out? And he's like, no, because if we start teaching you stuff, you'll just destroy yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then he's like, well, let's go. And she's like, Venus, like, I can't go. And he's like, what do you mean you can't go? And then they just showed the hunchback of Talos 4.
They do the Wolfman devolve thing.
My God, Vina is not 18.
She's in rough shape.
She's more like 58.
It it made it even.
Man, I was hurt as a child.
You should be hurt.
I was hurt.
You deserve to be hurt.
I was hurt. The hottie I was
See?
hanging my hopes on was 58 years old. And
well, you know what?
broken.
Once again, unnecessary dialogue that is there, and she's like, "They found me. I was a lump of flesh, still alive." And they didn't have another human and know how to put me back together again.
Come on, they got 2 shoulders. They should know,
I know.
the shoulders should
That's
be
what I
level.
was thinking. And I'm like, you know what? I think maybe they
Must be-
know
mu-
how.
must be
I just
different
think
under
they
those
just
robes.
didn't do it.
Things must be different under those robes.
Oh, yeah.
But no, and really, if you think about it, that getting into that moment foreshadowed a lot of what she did prior. Like the fact that she's even like, hey.
It made sense.
Right. The fact that she's even like, hey, don't kill him. It wasn't have mercy because they're not really bad people. It's I need them. I need them. I without them, I'm. Without them,
I'm a lump of flesh.
Without them, I'm this.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be this.
Yeah.
You know.
Which foreshadows the whole menagerie.
Yes.
The
Right. So
two-parter.
So as he's looking at her and she's in her sorry state, and she's gonna stay, he understands. He goes, "You're gonna give her back the illusion of beauty," and the Talosian goes, "That and more."
Right.
And he sees himself going off with her. She get the fantasy.
See, I didn't get that. I totally missed that when I was a kid.
So you see him and her go off, and that is where the cage or the menagerie is able to get that scene of him and her going off.
Yeah.
But it's beautifully done. But the Talosian tells him, she got the fantasy, you got the reality.
Right.
Which one is really better?
Reality.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yes.
That's because you haven't had a fantasy of you being Superman. Being a living and eat. See, fantasies normally have to end because reality intervenes into them.
Reality is unavoidable.
Yes, in reality, but in a science fiction genre, where the fantasy can continue on unabated.
But the whole point is that you know it's fake and you're not going to accept it.
How do you know it's fake or not? There's a Star Trek episode where Picard is stranded on a planet.
I thought you said a Star Trek episode.
Whatever. Stranded on a planet for his entire life cycle until he dies.
Another one of those weird time envelope things.
It wasn't a time thing. It was all a fantasy in his mind. But it affected him because he had children. They died.
He enjoyed the life he lived.
He enjoyed the life he lived, but it wasn't real.
It was still fake.
So for her, what's the difference? What's really the difference? Nothing. So when we draw it down, because we actually live in reality, and there is no Star Trek, there is no booty-headed people who can give you a real ending.
I hope not.
Of fantasy. The only thing we have is reality, because no matter what you set up, reality will intervene. Mm-hmm. But when you have a situation like that, you have an unending fantasy. What is heaven? Now, we think it is reality, but it's an unending perfect period.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want it?
What I get out of the episode is that regardless of how pretty the cage is, you don't want to be in it.
Well, there's no happy ending for anyone.
No.
The Talosians go extinct. Pike turns into a Pop-Tart. And when the Talosians go, so does the fantasy if they're still alive.
Yeah, but they don't go extinct.
Yeah, but she'll die long before they will.
Right.
The fantasy will survive.
They don't go extinct.
Well, they probably do, but you don't know how many 100 years it's going to take. Remember, Kirk's generation, the cage, the menagerie is what, 50, 60 years? Not even that. 30 years later?
No, not even.
Okay.
No.
So
10?
10 years at the most.
All right, 10 years at the most. He's back and he's burnt toast. He would have been better staying there.
Well, that's because a few years after the events of the cage.
Yeah, he would have been better staying there. He made a bad choice.
I disagree.
Bad choice.
I disagree.
Bad choice.
I disagree. I chafe at.
I don't.
I chafe at the willful deception.
When I was a kid, I wanted to stay, and now I'm not a kid, and I would have stayed.
I never.
That has never changed.
I never wanted to stay.
I'd be running up that ramp.
I never wanted to stay.
Give me my lightsaber and my green women.
What does a menagerie give us? And we're going
the cage.
Men in track, we're going to do the menagerie, but what does it give us? That there's certain situations in your life that are so painful and so bad that a fantasy is better than what you have. That's at the bottom. That's at the bottom line of the menagerie.
Well, we'll have to get back into the episode and see if that's how it really comes out.
Yeah,
that's the upshot of what's being done. They're offering him some quality of life.
And he what? Takes it.
Well, here's what I'll tell you though. I mean, one of the commitments that we've made.
I wouldn't take it.
One of the commitments that we've made, and there'll be a trailer that's coming out that'll show some of this, is that we figured out in order to do these 80 episodes, it's going to take us 10 years.
Not if we quit our job.
Well, yeah. But I mean, in that 10-year period, I wonder if we'll continue to change how we've seen and appreciate. You know, it's almost at this point, I feel like I have a bachelor's degree in this, and then it'll be a master's and then a PhD. It's like, because there is a study that goes into this. We're not just, I don't think we just look at this and we just comment on it. It's like we want to try to understand more and more of this. And it's interesting in the menagerie from what I remember. I remember Spock telling Pike what he was going to do, and Pike saying no.
Yeah, Spock did it, and Spock did it anyway.
Initially, and Spock did it anyway, in spite of court-martial, in spite of the death penalty.
What?
That's right. Because once again, we all know our freedom-loving, super liberal Federation will kill you if you go to a planet they tell you not to.
Yeah. Quarantine planet.
Yep.
See,
a death sentence.
I disagree with both of you. I can't think of any scenario where I'd want this. I would not stay.
Yeah, like I said, when I was a kid,
I would not stay.
When I was a kid, I wanted to stay, and I'm not a kid anymore, and I would stay.
I would not stay.
Well,
I wouldn't.
Well,
I wouldn't.
Well, all right. Those are your choices, and that's all fine. And those of you who Men on Track who watched the episodes and loved it, let us know what you would do.
Yeah, what would you do?
Stay or not stay?
Would you keep the illusion and stay in the gilded cage, or would you go back to harsh reality?
You have the advantage of future insight.
Stop trying to sell it. Stop trying to. No future insight. Johnny on the spot.
Hey.
No. See, you're cheating. You're cheating already. I should cut your mic. I should cut your mic.
Stay with Vina.
No.
Or be a burnt toast.
Not knowing what the future holds. No.
Stay with Vina now, or come back to Vina as burnt toast.
No, you don't have foreknowledge of burnt toast.
He ends up there anyways. Save yourself those delta waves.
That is the cage. It is a fantastic.
The captain's cheating.
It is a fantastic pilot.
Would you recommend? Let's say that you're a first timer to all this. Would you recommend seeing the cage before or after you've seen the regular episodes?
Before.
No.
I'd see it after.
I would see it. I would say I recommend it after.
Yeah.
Because it's so much different than the original.
Right.
And in the original, you don't get all this meat.
No.
So the original,
it's meaty, but not this meaty.
The original is a lot leaner than this. So other than watching this first and having your hopes dashed, it's better to watch the original, enjoy it for what it is, and go back and sink your teeth into the cage.
Yeah, because I think what you see in the regular episodes is you see the strength builds between the relationships of the characters. In this one, I don't really know that much about how the characters, like we talk about the guy that we say is young Kelso.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure there's a backstory there, but you don't get the Spock, McCoy, Kirk relationship stuff in this. What you get is you got a captain, he's on a mission, he gets isolated from his crew. His crew tries to help him, but it's not wrapping a relationship around a plot.
No.
It's wrapping a good story around an idea, a moral premise.
Right.
Yeah.
It's far meatier than the episodes, and it would ruin, I think, people who watch the episodes after this.
They'd probably find it jarring.
Mm-hmm.
So I say watch the episodes, enjoy the episodes, and then go back and sink your teeth into the
But don't you
cage.
but don't you feel like it's helpful to have seen the cage before you see Menagerie though?
No.
I kind of do.
No. I think see Menagerie, then go back and watch
Because
the
it
cage.
puts the Menagerie in an interesting context.
Yeah, but I think then you're thinking about that context.
Right. You should go enjoy Menagerie and then go see where Menagerie was derived from.
Because the thing is with Menagerie is what you do. You can't have Menagerie without having the prior episodes of establishing Spock as a certain
Kind
character.
of character.
And in frame one of the Menagerie, you're like, who is this guy? He's lying, he's cheating, he's stealing, he's decepting, he's doing everything, and you're like, who is this, and why is he doing this?
Yeah, what is the reason Spock is so off the rails?
Mm-hmm.
And when you get through Menagerie, you sort of understand, but when you see the cage, you get what went on. So the cage is an after. It's cage is icing on top of the cake.
It's a separate thing in and of itself.
It's icing on top of the
There's
cake.
a great thing, not to get too far into the Menagerie because we're going to do that, but there's a great scene in the Menagerie where one of the commodores of the admiral says to Spock, Starfleet records aren't this concise.
Meticulous, right? Or
Where is this coming from? And he's like,
it's coming from
Talos 4.
it's coming from Talosians.
And he's like, let me remind you, we're going to kill you after this.
Right.
This
is a capital offense.
Yeah,
right.
We're gonna kill you after that. And he's like, "Yep, that's okay, but you need to see the whole story."
That was Kirk's number one thing in the like I say, we don't want to deal.
Yeah, let's not get into it.
into the Menagerie. This is the cage.
Yeah.
The first, as Admiral pointed out, pilot, and it is a beautiful look at
What could have been.
what could have been. It birthed the Star Trek we have. We thankful for that.
Yeah.
But the cage is so much more.
Yeah, it was definitely on a higher level. I would have loved to have seen those characters go forward, and if they could have maintained that, it would have been very interesting. It would have been a very different series. But probably too strong for television, maybe even today.
Well, I started out disliking the suits, but as I look at it, and
They weren't
think about
completely
it,
wrong.
They weren't wrong.
They weren't completely wrong.
No,
They weren't wrong.
no.
They altered what was put out to give us something that could be tolerated for the time it was shown.
True.
And this is the problem with the suits of today. For the time we live in, so much has to be altered that us older guys can't take it. Can't stand
Not
it.
older guys, people who actually care about story and pay attention to good writing. It doesn't matter, young or old.
The stuff of today, they have to check too many boxes, and you're so busy checking boxes, you don't ruin the story.
They don't try to tell a good story. They just use formulaic things and tropes.
So
But
the cage.
The
Click
Cage.
like and subscribe.
Click like and subscribe. Another episode of Men on Trek.
And we're out.
We are out.